Nigeria is the most dangerous country in the world to be a Christian. It's the most dangerous place in the world to profess your faith in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And my colleagues and I will soon, this month, we're going to brief the White House on our investigation's findings and provide the president with a series of options to help protect our brothers and sisters in Christ. I'm grateful for President Trump's steadfast leadership on this issue, and I look forward to continue to work with him to defend the persecuted. And I'll close with this thought, and this is just the way I feel about these issues. Look, the United States is a Christian nation. It is. The United States is a Christian nation that's founded on Christian principles. We have a unique duty to defend Christians wherever they are being persecuted, and I will never stop fighting for our persecuted brothers and sisters in Christ.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nnaemeka Onyeka Obiaraeri. Please, I want to address a very important issue. You know, there's this argument back and forth. Oh, was 7.5% VAT introduced on financial transactions and transfers in Nigerian banking industry? Argument back and forth. And I want to ask this very, very important question. When normal transaction fees of 50 naira, debit fees have now moved to 103 naira, what happened? What is the new line that was introduced to that? But you know one thing that baffles me? Policymakers in Nigeria, in their quest to raise more funds and whatever, they think in reverse order. All over the world, nations in Senate climes try to drive financial inclusion by encouraging people within the unbanked segment of the economy to come into the banked segment. Today it's estimated that we have about 116 million account holders in deposit money banks. I may be wrong, or the number may have increased by now. And of course, by the time you look at the number of BVN, in fact, let me even check my records. How many Nigerians have BVN? Let me check how many Nigerians are captured in the BVN. We just need to do things the right way in Nigeria. Okay, so far, as of December 2025, the record shows that 67.8 million Nigerians have been enrolled, using the bank's verification number. 67.8 million Nigerians. We have over 160 million accounts. That simply means there are multiple accounts. Of course, one person may own up to 4, 3, 5 accounts. But the truth is, only 67.8 million Nigerians out of a population of 220 million adult population, because adult population of Nigeria is almost close to about, that is those that are above 18 years, is almost close to about, give or take, about 150 million people. So you see clearly that that we have very low financial inclusion. Kenya has more financial inclusion than Nigeria, and all over the world, nations try to, because when you have 99%, 98% financial inclusion, it helps you to plan. It helps to check insecurity. It also helps you to curb corruption and other inefficiencies in the system. And one of the ways that citizens are encouraged to embrace banking and finance services is to make sure that as much as possible to make banking transactions less expensive for them. But in Nigeria, the reverse is the case. You all manner of debits, the banks are stealing, the governments are stealing, everybody just debiting your account, excess charge, every manner of criminality. And it goes unchecked. The regulator CBN, who are supposed to be stamp their feet on the ground and study are not doing much. I'm sorry to say this. Those on the physical side are introducing no matter of levies, taxes, stamp duties, just to cream out monies from Nigerians. Over 600 trillion naira transactions pass through the banking sector. You can actually, if we have true financial inclusion, that number should double. We should be having at least 1.2, 1.5 quadrillion naira transactions through the banking system. But it's not so because of this nonsense we are doing. Exactly, another thing again about the gap between the lending rate and the deposit rate. All over the world, you don't see anybody from America to Canada to Europe to Ghana to Kenya to South Africa. You don't see bankers coming to chase you looking for deposits. You don't see bankers going to public sector to hunt for public sector deposits. What bankers do, which is the role of deposit money banks, is financial intermediation, bridging the gap between the surplus economic units and the deficit. I'm a banker, so I understand this clearly. A well-trained investment banker who has practically spent 25 years of his life in this industry. And I know clearly that all over the world, the banking sector is one of the most important sectors in an economy. One of the most important sectors. Banks are not supposed to be rent-seeking centers, money laundering centers, round-tripping centers. Banks are supposed to be for men who are ethical and professional. My BSc thesis is on ethics and professionalism in the Nigerian banking industry, how it contributes to economic development. So the truth is, that is the role of banks. And banks are supposed to create a margin that covers their cost and allow them to at least make a margin that satisfies shareholders' wealth maximization, but not to the detriment of the rest of the economy. Nigeria is the only place in the whole wide world where the banking balance sheet is growing astronomically, whereas the rest of the economy is tanking. It does not make sense anywhere. It's either shown that the banking system is corrupt, are inefficient, or they are not playing their role. All over the world, bankers, for you to have investment in an economy, the savings culture must be encouraged. In Japan, monetary policy rate there was even a time monetary policy rate was negative. It simply means there's no longer an incentive for you to keep idle money. You must invest it. In Nigeria, if you want to drive savings and investment, then we must bridge the gap. I will put 1 billion naira in a deposit money bank. They will tell me, this is this. We won't pay you anything more than 12%. And I'll come back the next day in the same bank with my 12 billion in savings, and I'll ask the same bank to lend me 500 million or 1 billion. The same bank will tell me lending rate is 35%. How can deposit rate be 12% and lending rate is 35%? Where is such done? And that is why the central bank must put their feet on the ground. There should be a regulation on the spread that banks must make in any transaction. Banks are not there to over-profiteer, to do FX trading, to round trip, and to do a lot of fraudulent things. Banks are there to act as the medium of exchange, to act as the intermediary between the deficit economic unit and the surplus economic unit. That is the role of bank as defined by whatever practice or conventions anywhere in the whole world. Nigeria is not an exception. This nonsense has to stop now. It must stop.
Daughters of 81-year-old President of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, are today celebrating in Kampala and other cities in the country after he won a record 7th term in office. Museveni received 72% of votes cast to defeat the main opposition leader, Bobi Wine. Bobi Wine, who has been in hiding since security men stormed his house, described the results as fake. He urged Ugandans to reject it and embark on peaceful protest. Museveni has been the leader of Uganda since 1986 when he overthrew the government of Milton Obote. It is 8:30 p.m. in Kampala, Uganda, 6:30 p.m. in Lagos, Nigeria, and 12:30 p.m. in New York City. Wherever in the world you are joining us from, welcome to another edition of 90 Minutes Africa. My name is Rudolph Okonkwo. My co-host, Chido Onoma, is an aside. Today on our show, we have a special guest, and he will discuss so many things, including the news breaking that the Nigerian government, headed by Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has charged Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mike Ozatome, with fraud over his claim to the late General Husseini's London's property. Joining us on the show today is Dr. Nnaemeka Onyeka Obiaraeri. Here is his profile.
Sparkling excellence in all his academic pursuit. He is an accomplished investment banker, world-acclaimed economist, and a bullish entrepreneur. He is a highly passionate advocate of the Southeast development, with an unshaken belief in the capacity of the region to be the manufacturing and agro hub of the nation. His name is Obiaraeri, Onyeka Nnaemeka. Born in his hometown of Amagwu Ihube Autonomous Community, Okigwe local government area in Imo State on October 10th, 1972, the young Nnaemeka had his primary and post-primary education in the beautiful city of Owerri, attending St. Teresa Primary School, Samuel Nyamanze Memorial Primary School, and Emmanuel College. Obiaraeri demonstrated his academic prowess at the Kaduna State Polytechnic, graduating as the best student in the 1995 National Diploma class in Accounting and Finance. At the Abia State University, Uturu, he also graduated at the top of his faculty with a Bachelor of Science in Banking and Finance. He holds an MSc in Corporate Governance from Leeds Metropolitan University in the United Kingdom. Obiaraeri is a financial engineer and a consummate investment banker. A fellow of the Chartered Institute of Credit Administration, Obiaraeri is a recipient of several awards for his professional work and community service. His vast experience span across various major financial institutions, including as head, capital market, and research of Legacy Guardian Express Bank, now Heritage Bank, head, project finance and private equity funds management of Oceanic Bank, now EcoBank, pioneer head, corporate finance and private equity management at Bank PHB, now Keystone Bank, and lots more. He is currently the managing director/CEO of Taurus Capital and Advisory Services Limited. He also sits in the board of various organizations, both within and outside Nigeria. Obiaraeri, whose banking exploits earned him the moniker Emeka Banking, also ventures in and out of partisan politics in a bid to realize his vision for the Southeast region. In 2015, he contested for the Imo State House of Assembly to represent the Okigwe constituency under the platform of APGA. He also ran as the deputy governorship candidate of the United Progressives Party, UPP, in the 2018 Imo State election. The UPP governorship candidate described Obiaraeri as a man who has distinguished himself and championed a lot of investments across the length and breadth of this country, and he is a trainer administrator. Obiaraeri Onyeka Nnaemeka is also a passionate philanthropist. He has supported widows by providing shelter and clothing for them. He has donated vehicles to women groups, clergy, and educational institutions to ease transportation. Dr. Obiaraeri has provided transformers for rural electrification for various communities in Okigwe local government area. He also provides business grants to youths, women, and artisans. His bursary and scholarship scheme has given succor to many students in their educational pursuit. When he speaks of development in the Southeast, he exudes passion. That burning passion is what drives him to continue to provide innovative solutions to the developmental challenges facing the region and Nigeria in general.
All right. As we welcome Dr. Nnaemeka Onyeka Obiaraeri. right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and welcome to another edition of 90 Minutes Africa. Our guest is making his way to the studio. It looks like it's a normal thing this year. Every guest we have, it's a political year. Most people are involved in so many political activities and other events. So he's making his way to the studio, and he will join us as soon as possible. So again, thank you for being here. I want us to start the show, and whenever he joins us, we will have a conversation with him. And let me begin. If anybody wants to join me in the studio, you can join me through the link I shared. But there's something, a big story that is out there, and I hope some of you have seen it. It was published by the New York Times. The story was about the involvement of America in Nigerian politics. So let me share the link so that you can take a look at what is going on. I think most Nigerian newspapers are reporting it. This is the story as reported by Sahara Reporters. Let's see. How unverified claims from Onitsha screwdriver seller influenced Trump's claim on Christian genocide, U.S. airstrikes in Nigeria. So it's a very interesting story. So the New York Times went to Onitsha and interviewed Nnaemeka Onyeka Obiaraeri. That's the name of the guy who is the founder of the International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law. This is an organization that has been doing the work of publishing figures and data based on their research on Christian genocide in Nigeria, including activities of IPOB in the Southeast. So the New York Times reporter went to Nigeria and interviewed him. They raised questions on the methodology he used to issue his reports. It's a very fascinating story. We will discuss that. The guy said he has degrees from National Open University of Nigeria. In some of the quotes in the New York Times story, he was asked about how he's getting his information. He mentioned sources like newspaper reports, secondary sources, advocacy groups. He basically puts them all together and comes up with his pronouncements. So quite interesting. A lot of people are heaping on this, and based on this, people are saying that the whole idea of Christian genocide has been debunked, because the main source of that story is someone who doesn't have a methodology that is supported by science. So that's a big story out there. We will get to that. I hope our guest today is aware of this story, because I want to talk to him about that. The other story is about Michael Zakome, the senior advocate of Nigeria. When I read the story of what happened in London court when he went to claim Jeremiah Husseini's property, it was unbelievable. And the judge in the case basically expressed his disappointment that a senior lawyer in Nigeria could be making such a claim in court. So today I'm surprised to read that the Nigerian government is charging him with fraud over that case. So that's something that is quite interesting. All right. So while we wait for our guests to come, Lagos traffic is in Lagos, and Lagos traffic is something else we can predict. According to him, he will have been here 15 minutes ago, but when I didn't see him, I told him I will go live, and whenever he's available, he can join us. So I see a few people in the studio. If you want to come on and have a chat with me, turn on your camera. Oh, all right. The guest is here. All right. So let's see. We are going to hold off everybody, and let's talk to the guest. He's here, and want to welcome him. Let me before we bring him on, let's see. Maybe we can play this again so that he will hear this.
Sparkling excellence in all his academic pursuit. He is an accomplished investment banker, world-acclaimed economist, and a bullish entrepreneur. He is a highly passionate advocate of the Southeast development, with an unshaken belief in the capacity of the region to be the manufacturing and agro hub of the nation. His name is Obiaraeri Onyeka Nnaemeka. Born in his hometown of Amagwu Ihube Autonomous Community, Okigwe Local Government Area in Imo State on October 10, 1972, the young Nnaemeka had his primary and post-primary education in the beautiful city of Owerri, attending St. Teresa Primary School, Samuel Nyamanze Memorial Primary School, and Emmanuel College. Obiaraeri demonstrated his academic prowess at the Kaduna State Polytechnic, graduating as the best student in the 1995 National Diploma class in Accounting and Finance. At the Abia State University, Uturu, he also graduated at the top of his faculty with a Bachelor of Science in Banking and Finance. He holds an MSc in Corporate Governance from Leeds Metropolitan University in the United Kingdom. Obiaraeri is a financial engineer and a consummate investment banker. A fellow of the Chartered Institute of Credit Administration, Obiaraeri is a recipient of several awards for his professional work and community service. His vast experience span across various major financial institutions, including as head, capital market, and research of Legacy Guardian Express Bank, now Heritage Bank, head, project finance and private equity funds management of Oceanic Bank, now EcoBank, pioneer head, corporate finance and private equity management at Bank PHB, now Keystone Bank, and lots more. He is currently the managing director/CEO of Taurus Capital and Advisory Services Limited. He also sits in the board of various organizations, both within and outside Nigeria. Obiaraeri, whose banking exploits earned him the moniker Emeka Banking, also ventures in and out of partisan politics in a bid to realize his vision for the Southeast region. In 2015, he contested for the Imo State House of Assembly to represent the Okigwe constituency under the platform of APGA. He also ran as the deputy governorship candidate of the United Progressives Party, UPP, in the 2018 Imo State election. The UPP governorship candidate described Obiaraeri as a man who has distinguished himself and championed a lot of investments across the length and breadth of this country, and he is a trainer administrator. Obiaraeri Onyeka Nnaemeka is also a passionate philanthropist. He has supported widows by providing shelter and clothing for them. He has donated vehicles to women groups, clergy, and educational institutions to ease transportation. Dr. Obiaraeri has provided transformers for rural electrification for various communities in Okigwe local government area. He also provides business grants to youths, women, and artisans. His bursary and scholarship scheme has given succor to many students in their educational pursuit. When he speaks of development in the Southeast, he exudes passion. That burning passion is what drives him to continue to provide innovative solutions to the developmental challenges facing the region and Nigeria in general.
All right, let's welcome to the show our guest for today. Dr. Nnaemeka. Nnaemeka, welcome to the show.
Thank you, my brother Rudolph.
All right. Thank you so much. I know that you guys are busy in Nigeria today, this period. Everybody is moving around and politics is heating up. So we welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right. So typically we start with Africa because this is Africa-wide show. I'm sure you know that in Uganda, Yoweri Museveni has been re-elected for the 7th time. So he's been the president or the leader of the country since 1986. That is 40 years ago. What do you make of that? You know, considering that in Cameroon, you have Paul Biya, re-elected as leader of Cameroon. Look across Africa, you see the kind of leaders we have, how long they've been there. What do you make of that?
He was not actually re-elected. He installed himself into power, and that has been the problem with Africa. Tight rulers that have never added value to their people, and that also brings to fore, in as much as I believe that the United States of America has a very major role to play in recalibrating leadership in Africa, especially with their interventions, recent interventions in Nigeria. But Uganda and the Cameroon brings to fore again the hypocrisy of the United States of America. The hypocrisy is that in the US, you can't do more than 2 terms as a president. It's defined. And most African nations borrow their democracy, especially the presidential system of government, modeled after the US. So one would have expected a so-called police of the world to make sure that every part of the world where such things are not being upheld, to at least see how they can support the opposition. But of course, you will see clearly. I'm very, very sure America will have congratulated him by now. Uganda had never been as one of the worst things that happened to Uganda started in 1972 with the emergence of Idi Amin. Uganda was doing well. The Lebanese were there, and the Asians were there until Idi Amin decided to chase them out of Uganda. And of course, from Idi Amin to today, Uganda had been on the backward trend, retrogression. So I'm not shocked. And it also brings to fore the challenges we have in Africa. I sometimes sit down and ask myself this question. And I say it, Africa deserves the kind of leadership that we have because we allowed it. If a majority of Ugandans decides today that Museveni will not be their president, they will have their way. Just like the chessboard. Today, Museveni has re-elected himself. I can bet you, if you look at the process that brought him back, flawed, discrepancies, irregularities, he has practically bought off all the issues of the state, and he's there. They are doing nothing since 1986, over 4 decades. This is the 40th year in power, with nothing to show for it. Somebody will ask, what of Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore? Lee Kuan Yew, yes, you could see where Singapore is. In 1965, Singapore was kicked out of mainland Malaysia because mainland Malaysia believed that Singapore was just a tiny island surrounded by the ocean, that below the ocean, and that would soon be swept away. And they didn't want to incur liability, so they kicked them out. Of course, they decided to rally around. As at 1965, Singapore had the interest level of about 52%. Today, Singapore has one of the top 4 strongest passports in the whole world. Today, out of the 5.5 million Singaporeans, 1 out of every 15 Singaporean is a US dollar millionaire. Singapore, with 5.6 million people, sitting on a landmass of about 721 square miles, which is even smaller than Alimosho in Lagos State, has more revenue, 3 times than Nigeria, has 3 times bigger GDP than Nigeria. And across the world, no Singaporean, you will never see any Singaporean queuing up in the UK embassy, US embassy to look for passport to go to the US. They don't even need any visa to go. They don't even need the visa to go to US or Canada or any other place. That is the power of benevolent dictator who is knowledgeable, who is smart, who is creative, and who understands what it takes to bring these people out of where they are from the 3rd world to the 1st world. So you will have expected these dictators in Africa to do the same thing like Lee Kuan Yew. But of course, Lee Kuan Yew was very smart, very educated, very knowledgeable, not corrupt. Most of what we have in Africa, from Uganda to Cameroon to Nigeria, are tight dictators, corrupt leaders who do not even understand their left and right, very selfish, very wicked, who do not have anything like compassion, like mercy, like patriotism, just like we had in the First Republic under Michael Obara, like Abafemi Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and Ahmadu Bello. So what we have in Africa is so appalling, so painful, that Museveni has put himself back in power, and this also brings to fore the hypocrisy and the double standards of the United States of America, who I'm sure will have congratulated him by now.
You mentioned America, and that brings me to the next topic I wanted us to discuss. You've been making videos about Trump, and what Trump is doing across the world. And I wanted to get your view on this situation, what happened in Venezuela. How do
Okay, good.
you see what Trump did there?
Okay, good. You know, I believe so much in the sovereignty of nations. I believe that the sovereignty of nations should be respected at any point in time. But you and I, Rudolph, know that there is no sovereignty without the people. The sovereignty of a nation is the people. And it is the people who decide what defines their sovereignty. It is the people who come together to make up decide to proclaim or put together a constitutional framework, a grand norm that governs the relationship between the state and those that are within the state. Maduro, right from the time he contested elections, has shown clearly, just like we have in Africa, in part of Africa, Maduro was not elected by the Venezuelans. And I am very, very sure, just like in the US where you live, Rudolph, power belongs to the people. Irrespective of how strong a president is, he is still subject to the will of the people. And that is why, irrespective of the flaws in the US still represent the bastion of morality, bastion of everything that is right in terms of representative democracy. I give you an example. Donald Trump became the president of US in 2016. In 2020, he lost the election. He claimed he was rigged. Despite the fact he claimed he was rigged out, he exited power. He did not sit tight. He did not call the military to execute a coup against the person that won the election. He gave way. In last year, he contested again. He won all the swing states, and he was sworn in as the 47th president of America. Now, without the people, there's no sovereignty. The role of government anywhere in the whole world, the number one role of any government is protection of lives and properties. Once the rulers of any land decide to introduce their own or killing their people, that sovereignty is no longer there. Your sovereignty ceases when you decide to turn the boot of the barrel of the gun on your people. That was what Maduro did. Now, I would take you back to 1970 because I always like to look back, because if you don't know, there's this Igbo adage that says, if you don't know where the race started beating you, you will not know where to take shelter or how to stop it. If you go back to 1970, I always look at 1970. After 1970, Venezuela had a GDP per capita of about $1,248. 3 times the GDP of Nigeria. GDP of Nigeria as of 1970 per capita was about $359. The GDP of Brazil was around the same region. The GDP of Indonesia was about $79. It was even among the poorest. Today, the GDP per capita of Indonesia is about $5,000. The GDP per capita of Brazil is about $10,300. That of Nigeria is $888. Forget all the rebasing that they did. And Venezuela, about $1,500. What happened between 1970 to now is one of the things that I've shown clear, that Venezuela and Nigeria are examples of resource-rich countries that are cursed with the worst form of rulership over the last 50 years. The Venezuelans deserve better than better than they are getting today. Saudi Arabia today, with the third highest crude oil reserve, produce over 10 million barrels of crude every day. Average cost of production in Saudi Arabia is about $15 per barrel. Russia does 10 million barrels a day. Average cost of production in Russia is about $15-20 per barrel. There was a time in Nigeria we used to produce crude oil at average cost of about $5-7 per barrel. Especially in 1999 when Obasanjo became president. Venezuela has one of the lowest cost of crude oil production, between $15 to $23 a day per barrel. America has one of the highest cost of production in terms of crude oil. A barrel costs America almost about $60-65 because of fracking. Now, Venezuela has 303 billion barrels of crude, 17% of the global crude reserve. And remember, before Chavez emerged and decided to nationalize all the oil and gas assets in Venezuela, Americans invested heavily in extraction of crude oil for the fact tens of billions of dollars were poured in by American companies to help to extract crude oil from Venezuela. Tens of billions of dollars that were invested that helped the Venezuelans to grow their economy in such a very prolific way that by 1970 they were among the most prosperous nations in the world. Chavez emerged. He started to nationalize all these corporations, took out the investors that came into Venezuela. Court judgments were procured against Chavez. He never honored it. From that period till now, Venezuela has been on downward spiral. Now, somebody will have asked this question: is it right for a Donald Trump to intervene to remove Maduro? Right from the word go, Maduro had remained an illegitimate president who had turned the gun on his people, decided to wreck his economy, rather than focus on how he can work to deepen crude oil production in Venezuela. Sell the crude oil for the benefit of the people. He started to be stealing the crude oil, just like we are doing, having experience in Nigeria, and all manner of drug nonsense. Venezuela with 303 billion barrels of crude reserve.
Dr. Nnaemeka, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, your internet is frozen. We can't hear you. Okay, you're back. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good. So, somebody asked, and if you listen to Donald Trump, he was very clear. He said, we are going to drill Venezuelan oil for the benefit of Venezuelans. Venezuela, with the crude oil reserve they have, Venezuela, with the cost of production of crude oil that they have, low cost of production, Venezuela has the capacity to do at least 5 to 10 million barrels of crude production every day. Venezuela has the capacity to refine their crude oil at least 5 million barrels a day. But Venezuela has not been able to do this because over the last 50 years, no new investment has come in, no new technology has been introduced because of the close corrupt economy that they've run under Chavez, Maduro, and the rest of the criminal leadership that have emerged over the last 50 years, just like we have had in Nigeria over the last 50 years. So one will expect the Venezuelans to now open their eyes and say, okay, Mr. Donald Trump, now that Maduro had been eliminated, let's work together. You have the best technology anybody can boast of. Bring those technologies into Venezuela. Help us to deepen our crude oil production to at least 5-10 million barrels a day. Drill the crude oil, collect your cost of production, sell the crude oil, and return the money to Venezuelans. If today Venezuela is doing 5-10 million barrels of crude every day, if today the Venezuelans can refine 5 million barrels of their crude every day, and the monies go to the Venezuelan people, not to private pockets of oligarchs and criminals, within the next 1-2 years, the Venezuelans will have a GDP per capita of nothing less than $10,000 per capita because they just have about 4 million people within Venezuela. Look at Brazil. The Petrobras started in 1970, 6 years after Nigerian National Oil Corporation. Today, Petrobras managing the Brazilian crude oil. Brazil has 15.5 billion barrels of crude, 40% of Nigerian crude reserve, proven. Today, Brazil does over 3.84 million barrels of crude production every day. And it costs about $45 a barrel to produce a barrel of crude from Brazil. Today, Brazil refines 2.4 million barrels of crude every day out of 19 refineries, 11 owned by Petrobras. Today, Petrobras produces and generates about $121 billion every year in terms of revenue. Does $6 billion profit, pays $45 billion royalties to Brazilian government, and $6 billion dividends to Brazilian for their 28% shareholding of Petrobras. What did the Brazilians do? They understood that to allow public sector profligacy to continue in their country would not augur well for them. They decided to privatize 72% of their shareholding to deep-pocketed, technically savvy private sector investors, both local and foreign investors, opened up the system, listed the Petrobras on the floor of the London Stock Exchange, introduced efficiency and accountability like we have in Nigerian liquefied gas. And today, they are enjoying it. Look at Nigeria. Crude oil reserve, 37.5 billion barrels. And if we do more exploration, we can go up to 60 billion barrels. Look at Venezuela, 303 billion barrels of crude reserve. Yet, these two countries share one thing in common. They are cursed with the worst form of rulers and leadership anybody has ever seen anywhere in the whole world. You know, some of us have bayed and clamored. Let me tell you, in as much as Donald Trump is erratic and nobody can predict his next move, if Donald Trump can effect the same thing he did in Nigeria, let me tell you, Rudolph, the crude oil is not benefiting not because it is being shared and looted by few oligarchs. Nnaemeka Onyeka, the GMD of NNPC, in 2021 on Arise TV, told us gleefully that every month, $1.9 billion of our crude oil reserve are stolen through inefficiencies and thievery. Whooping $22 billion lost every year. As I talk to you, nobody has been arrested. Nobody has been prosecuted. Nothing done about it. In 2022, the Auditor General of the Federation of Nigeria reported that over 110 million barrels of crude oil were unaccounted for. Till today, Rudolph, nobody arrested, nobody prosecuted, no inquest. So, anybody can say whatever they like about Donald Trump. But the truth is, I may not like most of this he is doing. But on the intervention in Venezuela, he is spot on. And I also expect that if we are honest among ourselves in Nigeria, we will know that this country as it is today, are you aware that in 2010, go and check the record at CBN, in October 2010, from October 1 to October, go and check the record, Nigeria was doing 2.8 million barrels of crude oil and condensate every day. In May 29, 2015, when Jonathan handed over to the Dundee Buhari, Nigeria was doing 2.3 million barrels of crude every day and condensate. Today, we are barely producing 1.65 million barrels a day. Why? Don't do investment, don't do technologies. Most marginal field operators are closing up because if you drill 5,000,000 barrels of crude every day and put through the pipeline, it will be stolen along the line. We are paying 40 billion naira every year to private group to protect the pipelines. But we know what to do to stop the thievery. Saudi Arabia has 3 times more pipeline legs than Nigeria. You will never hear anywhere in Saudi Arabia where they will tell you a barrel of crude was stolen. Same thing for Angola, same thing for Bahrain, same thing for Qatar. The only place you will see crude oil thievery is in Nigeria and Venezuela. And they share one thing in common: criminal, inefficient, compromised leadership. And of course, a docile population that have refused to see beyond their ethno-religious awareness.
All right. You touched on so many things. I wish I had stopped you. First of all, I wanted you to clarify this. You said something like the sovereignty of any nation, that the country loses their sovereignty if they turn their guns on their own people, something like that. So where is it written? And is it the role of America to decide to take action when that happens? And are they doing it across the board or just selected countries that they are doing it?
Rudolph, I highlighted the hypocrisy of the US. I highlighted it. And I gave you an example. If the US had been very, very consistent, Museveni would not be president of Uganda by now. Pobia will not be president of Cameroon by now. That is the hypocrisy of the US. But you know, I said this thing, that you have 20 policemen in a society that has 1,000 criminals. And the 20 policemen, overwhelmed by the number of criminals in society, decided, okay, they want to tackle the first 20 criminals. If you are very, very sincere and you are very, very honest, you will not say, there are 1,000 criminals. The 20 policemen must handle the 1,000 criminals at the same time. If the police are able to take out 40 of the 1,000 criminals, you have 960 criminals, 40 less. And that is where I support the actions of Donald Trump in Venezuela. And I say to you again, Rudolph, the sovereignty of any nation is the people. Without the people, there's no sovereignty. You and I know this. Democracy simply means the people come together and they say, okay, you know the origin of democracy in Greece. All of us cannot be in Abuja to make law in National Assembly. We have 469 members of National Assembly, 109 in the Senate, and the rest in the House of Rep. We have a man who's Senator Rock as Mr. President. And these guys sit there, not on their own. They sit there as servants. They sit there as workers, serving for the benefit of the 220 million Nigerians. At any point in time, these guys decide to do things that does not conform with the wishes and the will of the people. The sovereignty ceases. And I say it with every sense of responsibility. I give you an example. If 10 of us in a group decide, okay, we want to make Rudolph our president. Rudolph, this is your role as defined by our constitution. And for whatever reason, Rudolph decides to go rogue and decide to go contrary to what 10 of us agreed. And then rather than quit when we say we've had enough, decided to bring in militias and bandits to tie all of us down. As long as Rudolph is still leading there based on his whims and caprices, he is no longer our leader. He's just there because he has been able to buy up all the interests of the state corruptly to remain there. And I say again, democracy simply means government of the people, for the people, and of the people. Any government that emerges through rigging, through manipulation, through criminality, does not have any sovereignty behind it. Why do you think America today remains the bastion of democracy? Trump lost in 2020. He walked away. He came back and contested in 2024. And he won. Biden did not say, okay, and of course, you know that Biden have never loved Trump. He hates Trump with every passion. If Biden was to be an African president, he will have another election. Or he will have found a way to make sure that Trump does not emerge or is sworn as American president. But because he respects the constitution of the US, because you understand that the will of the people have been expressed when he got majority of the popular votes and the swing votes, he allowed the swine to go on. And that is what we are saying in Africa. And let us tell ourselves, all of us can say whatever we want. We know within us, we know, all of us have a conscience. Maduro never emerged as president of Venezuela. And rightly, he was removed. We are approaching 2027, and it's a everything. All of us must be very, very careful. 2027 is not going to be like 2023. I'm telling you of a truth. 2027 will make or mar Nigeria. 2027, if they decide to repeat what they did in 2023, it will be to your tent, O Israel. Thank you.
All right. We have so much topics to touch on. We've not even come to Nigeria. So if you can help us make 2 minutes for each answer so that we can get to many of them. Okay. Before we leave the international scene, let me just get your view on this. You talked about Venezuela and how their economy went from the 60s to what it is now. Do you think that sanctions had something to do with that? Because people have said, the way you analyze things here, people have said that if you look at Cuba in 1960, and Cuba and Miami, that Cuba and Miami were almost the same, in the 60s. But if you go to Cuba now, it will be like you are in a different century compared to Miami. Do you think that sanctions, and you can go to Africa and look at Zimbabwe, what happened to Zimbabwe after sanctions were imposed by the West? Do you think that's a factor in what happened in Venezuela?
Rudolph, what brought about the sanction? You see, we need to be very honest with ourselves. Chavez became president of Venezuela, decided to nationalize oil and gas assets of American companies that poured in tens of billions of dollars to help the US to develop the oil and gas sector. If you are American president, what will you do? Will you allow him to get away without doing everything possible to get him to reverse course? It's a question that is left. Are you aware that reasons why investments are not pouring into Nigeria is because of the lack of transparency, opacity, and criminality in the system? And I want to remind us, in 1965, the first refinery that was built in Nigeria was built by Shell BP. When Obasanjo became president, Obasanjo called Shell to come and take over the refinery that they built in 1965. The ones Obasanjo built in 1979, 1976, 1979. The one that Babangida built, Train 2 in Port Harcourt, Shell refused. The same Shell in South Africa that has no crude oil, with Chevron and Total, has refineries with combined capacity of about 5,000 barrels a day. Why do you think Shell refused to build refineries in Nigeria? Because they know clearly in this country, we have no respect for law, we have no respect for rules, we have refused to liberalize and open up the market for transparency and accountability. Shell refused. That was what happened. See, because there's always actions and consequences. If Chavez has not nationalized assets that were invested in this country by American companies, there wouldn't have been any sanction. And if there was no sanction, and of course, by the way, he embraced communism. Communism simply, he was aligned with Russia. How come that in all the period that was American sanction, that Russia did not go into Chile, Venezuela, to bring in technology, to help them to ramp up productivity to the level that Russia has today? Russia is doing 10 million barrels a day with less crude oil reserve. That is why sometimes when I look at people that say, oh, China, Russia, they are alternative to America, I laugh. In Nigeria today, our gold and natural resources are being stolen by the Chinese and the oligarchs in the north. It's already alleged that they are funding the terrorists. The terrorists are offering them protection. America will not go to the north and be funding people to be killing Nigerians for them to drill gold. If America is to come to Nigeria to come and drill gold, they will do it the same way that Shell and the rest of them did when they came to Nigeria. The Shell and Mobil and Chevron that came to Nigeria to drill crude oil, did they arm the natives to kill the indigenous people so that they can drill their crude oil without paying for it? They never did the same thing. So when I see people talk about China, talk about Russia, I get worried. I get worried not because Americans are sent. I get worried because from experiences, we have seen what they've done. The problem we have in the north today is championed by China. Gold worth billions of dollars are stolen annually from northern Nigeria. And I've made this case. How come the leaders of the north have not come and said, okay, the same way we have an arrangement, a social arrangement, where we allocate acreage of land to both foreign companies and local companies to drill crude oil, recover their cost, pay royalties, it is sold, and the money is paid to the federal government of Nigeria, and is shared among the trade government. How come they've not had the biggest gold refining companies is Bharat Gold? I've made a suggestion. If the North are sincere, if Nigeria is very sincere, by now we will have invited a Bharat Gold or other companies. That's okay. Today we have proven gold reserve from Osun State to Zamfara to Sokoto and other rich minerals. We even have rare earth in the north. How come we have not said, okay, enough is enough? Americans come into the north, come and help us the same way you have helped us to drill the crude oil. Bring in investors and companies so that we can drill our gold and our bauxite and our lithium and our rare earth and bring it into the federal account so that it can be shared nationally. But they know what they are doing. So today, there is death and misery in Nigeria and in the north because of these Chinese influences. How come the Chinese and the Russians did not help Venezuela with a crude oil reserve of 3.3 billion barrels to ramp up their output with their own technology, just like the Americans did when they came in before 1970? It's a question each and every one of us will ponder on.
All right, thank you. Before we go, because you talked about America, and today in the news, if you look at international news, you see that Europeans are panicking because Donald Trump is threatening to impose sanctions on 8 European countries who went to have a military training in Greenland. And he's saying that after the 10% sanction that will start, not sanction, tariff that will start from February 1st, that it will go up to 25 in June. And this is the new America. And we brought you here to talk about the new world order under Trump and how it will impact Africa. So when you look at this new America, trying to develop, encourage a conflict with NATO allies, how do you see this new America? Because if the Europeans are protesting on the streets of Europe saying that America should not bully them, that they believe that Greenland should be free to decide what they want to do with their own their country, that they shouldn't be forced to be part of America. How do you explain this America to a Nigerian who is worried?
I totally believe that the Greenlanders should be allowed to determine their fate where they belong to. I am in sync, and I don't like the bullying antics of Donald Trump towards Greenland. By the way, Alaska was formerly a Russian enclave before the US bought it over from Russia. If Donald Trump wants to do a deal with the Greenlanders, he does not need to bully them or create panic. In fact, it's actually creating panic and pushing them away from the US. Greenland will be better aligned, will be much better off if they are aligned with the US than Russia and China. So I will expect more diplomacy. Don't antagonize your NATO partners. Donald Trump should learn more of diplomacy in handling the Greenland issue. Greenland is very, very strategic for the US, very strategic for NATO. And if NATO members are in sync, Donald Trump should be able to convince them to see what they can do together to ward off Russia and China. By the way, NATO was actually formed as a strategic alliance to curtail the influence of the old USSR. And I don't think that objective have yet derailed. So I will expect Donald Trump and his kitchen cabinet to apply more diplomacy. It will be very, very dangerous to kind of alienate your NATO partners and create the kind of confusion that he's trying to create. If the Greenlanders decide, okay, they want to be part of the US, so be it. If Denmark decide to sell the Greenland to US and the people accept it, so be it. But this issue of swashbuckling bullying is unacceptable. I do not subscribe to it. And I believe that people should be able to determine where they want to belong to. The same thing applies to Nigeria. You know, when people tell you, oh, the unity of Nigeria is not negotiable, it's bunkum. Our founding fathers, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Obafemi Awolowo, Herbert Macaulay, Ahmadu Bello, and the rest of them, before 1960 independence, had several summits and commissions and conferences to determine how Nigeria should be structured. They came up with a constitution that allowed a loose center with very limited control of only security and foreign affairs. The regions were practically semi-autonomous. They controlled 50% of their resources. In fact, the regions even had semi-autonomous consulate offices in the UK and the US. And that was why we had an ebullient, progressive, 39-year-old medical professional who emerged as the premier of the Old Eastern region, who had a clear idea of what he wanted from day one. He saw the book Zik wrote about North Africa and he decided to interpret it. In 7 years, he built the fastest economy in the whole of the Commonwealth. In 7 years, he built one of the strongest and smartest security forces. When they were looking for police people to go and make peace in some of the Central African Republic that were in turmoil, they did not ask for Nigerian police. They asked for the police of the Old Eastern region. Dr. Michael Ihodo Karabara. His revenue waterfall was bigger than that of any other region in Nigeria. And they had one philosophy: provide affordable food and health care and education to every individual of the Old Eastern region, which is made up of about 9 states. Anybody who tells you that the sovereignty of Nigeria is not negotiable is a liar, is a fool, is a thief. We need to sit down and reorganize it. Let me tell you, and I've said this thing: sovereignty belongs to the people. And that's why I get angry with those who purport to lead us from the southeast. Rudolph, if you are to conduct an opinion poll in the southeast, I will tell you without missing word that 80% of Nigeria, those from that region, will demand to leave Nigeria. Why? Because they are not with in any region that have shown that they believe in Nigeria. And they are the Igbos. I'm addressing you here from Banana Island in Ikoyi, Lagos here. 70% of the properties are owned by Igbo. These are people that came in, saw a swampy area, reclaimed it, and turned it into one of the mega residential areas in Nigeria, where a square meter of land, a type of plot size land, is selling for 3.8 million naira. Yet, somebody will emerge governor, rather than see what he can do to empower these people to do more, he will want to alienate them. And I can tell you the truth. Greenlanders should decide what they want to do with Greenland. It is not for Donald Trump or anybody to determine for them. The same way, a time has come in Nigeria for the indigenous people of Nigeria to sit down and rework Nigeria back to the founding foundation of this country. Awolowo, Tafawa Balewa, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Ahmadu Bello, Herbert Macaulay, they agreed the foundation of this country and how it should be done. And I tell you the truth, the only thing that will make Nigeria to work is if we go back to that foundational, constitutional, and physical framework of Nigeria. As long as we have refused to redo the foundation of Nigeria back to what it used to be, I can tell you, a time is coming that Maduro treatment will happen in Nigeria. All of us will keep on crying. And it will happen very, very soon. Sooner than we are expecting it.
All right. Thank you so much. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk about some stories in the news today. We're talking about senior advocate of Nigeria, Michael Zakame, is being charged with fraud. Also, there's a story in New York Times. I don't know if you've seen it. The guy that started the International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law has been featured in New York Times. He's called a screwdriver trader in Onitsha, who has been issuing reports that without the methodology being acceptable or being up to international standards. So we're going to talk about that. And also we're going to talk about the tax law, the new one that just started in Nigeria that will impact everybody watching. So let's take a quick break and we'll be right back with Dr. Nnaemeka. right, welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining us, we are talking to Dr. Nnaemeka Obiaraeri, who is an investment banker and analyst that you see on TV all over Nigeria. Let's come back home. The president, Bola Tinubu, came back yesterday. He left the country December 28th and came back yesterday. While he was away, a lot of things happened, including the crisis in Rivers State. So, as someone who watches Africa and politics, what do you make of Tinubu, the way he's been running the country?
You and I know that Nigeria is practically on autopilot. And that has always been, if we are very sincere to ourselves, I think we should put year limitations on those who will be governors and presidents. My father, who is a UK trained accountant, died at the age of 72 in 2015. I tell you, my father was one of the smartest guys that I came across growing up. Very smart, very ethical, very professional. But at 70, 71, I clearly saw a man that was declining in cognitive, and a lot of other things. A Tinubu 20 years ago is not the same Tinubu of today. Remember, between 1999 to 2007, Bola Ahmed Tinubu was an apostle of sovereign national conference. He was an apostle of physical federalism. He was #1 apostle of taking Nigeria back to the constitutional and physical foundation of Nigeria between 1960 to 1960. Today, what happened? He had been overtaken by a desire to be president, to hold on to power, to contest in 2027, forgetting everything that he swore to when he was governor between 1999 to 2007. What changed? Old age. Once a man gets to 70, 75, he starts behaving like children. And Bible said that woe unto him whose leaders are like kids. 2025, 28 December till now, it's almost about 20 days. Nobody could account to where our president traveled. He is back. The same thing happened to Buhari. Buhari's presidency was hijacked. You saw what the daughter said the other day about things that were signed that the man was not aware of. It's possible similar things are happening today. The truth is, my people perish for lack of knowledge. Proverbs 25:5 said, if you surround a king with wicked men, no matter how well intentioned the king is, he will rule wickedly. How much more an aged king who is being carried around like a child? That is the problem we have in Nigeria today. A Bola Tinubu of 1999, 2007 will have been a different president than the Bola Tinubu that we have today. And that is why we are where we are. What happened? How come all the things he advocated? That was even the time he said he never believed in one Nigeria because of the nonsense that was happening in Abuja. Today, everyone around him, they are fixated with 2027. From Kogi State to Kwara State, even to Osun State, the bandits are practically taking over all the Yoruba areas in those states. Nobody in the presidency is saying anything on what can be done to restore normalcy and to crush the bandits. Everybody is talking about 2027. The governor of Zamfara State, Dauda, was very clear. Dauda Lawal, a former ED in First Bank, he said clearly, they know where the bandits are. They know who they are. They know who their sponsors are. And Dauda said, we write political will from Abuja that we can crush the bandits in 2 weeks. American strikes demonstrated clearly that we know where they are. How come the Americans were able to strike? And it was more than over 150 local water agents were killed. But yet we have our police and our army and our air force. We bought 10 Tucano jets from America, yet these guys are roaming free. Nobody's stopping them, and they're busy killing and conquering and destroying cities. Yesterday, a community in Sokoto State evacuated because Ujibelo threatened to annihilate them. This is the situation of Nigeria today. And as I'm telling you, Rudolph, the way it is going, there is no respite. It will grow from worse to worst. If not urgently is done. And the opposition, I must tell you, are not even serious. I must be honest with you. I expect by now, with what has happened here, P2B and the Atiku Abubakar and all them should be doing the same thing APC, AC, ADC was doing when they were marching. Jonathan increased fuel price from 65 to 98. They occupied Jonathan for 1 week. Today, Nigerians are suffering more. I expect the opposition leaders to do more other than Twitter posts and other things. To be on the streets, leading the demonstration for this nonsense to end. People are being killed every day. People are being murdered. All they are interested is scheming, manipulation. Look at River State. One drunkard will never allow any peace in that state. And this is allowed to happen. And somebody will come and tell you, we have sovereignty, we have democracy. What we have there is not democracy. What we have here is anarchy.
Okay. Let's clear some few stories in the news that are very important. I mentioned the New York Times story today that is trending all over. It's a story of the organization called the International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law. Do you know them?
No, actually.
You don't know them, but have you seen the story?
No, actually.
Oh, you've not seen the story?
No, I've not seen it.
Okay. So I'll give you the basic premise of the story. This is the story that this organization led by the name of the founder is Nnaemeka Onyeka Obiaraeri. Is based in Onitsha. He runs the organization from his home. According to the New York Times reporter who went to Onitsha and interviewed him, he's a screwdriver trader in Onitsha. But he said that he has a degree in security studies, peace and conflict resolutions from the National Open University in Nigeria. So he runs this NGO where he gathers reports data from different sources and publishes. And they found out that US lawmakers, even President Trump, based their decision to come to Nigeria and intervene in Christian genocide on reports that this guy issues. I've seen some of his reports in the past. Most newspapers in Nigeria, they carry it. Though that when they try to check on his modality, how he was getting these reports, it didn't meet the best standard. He said a lot of things. They questioned him. He would say, go and Google it. And he would say he has never been to the north. He has never traveled to do his research. He does it from looking at newspapers and looking online. So there is a question about that now in several media outlets and international circles about the claim that Christians are being killed or singled out based on what he's been reporting. So
Rudolph, anybody who I don't care the reputation of the news media, it's an insult to our intelligence and our intellect and our sensitivity for anybody to say Donald Trump reacted and bombed Lukawara because of a report of somebody in Onitsha. Rudolph, America does not need the report of anybody from Onitsha or from Boko or from Zamfara to make informed judgment of the actions of the US president. The American intelligence. That was something I told Seul Shani when Seul Shani was ranting about American sanctions on Nigeria and why South Africa was not sanctioned, despite the fact that Trump is claiming genocide against the world. I said, America knows what happens in the bedroom of the Sultan and Shehu Sani more than even Shehu Sani and the Sultan himself. It's an insult to our intelligence. It's an insult to our sensitivities for anybody to say Americans base their judgments on the write-up of somebody in Onitsha. America has, for crying out loud, America has, even among our political elites, most of them are CIA assets. Most of your governors, most of your political elites are CIA assets that pass information to the US. And for crying out loud, the woman that was beheaded in Kano, Margaret, the girl that was stoned under the false accusation of blasphemy, Deborah. Communities that were being sacked in the north. Benue State, a 99.99% predominant Christian state, they have 600 million standard people in IDP camps, chased away from their homes by fuller bandits who have never made any pretense of their intentions. What are we talking about here? Kawubara J, a chieftain of the APC, told us gleefully, you can Google it, that the APC imported these current fuller bandits from Mali, from Senegal, from other places, in anticipation that Jonathan will not hand over, so that they will create mayhem in Nigeria. Is Kawubara J dead? He's alive. And the bandits have refused to go. Go and check their footprints. Abacha, while he was alive, said something very instructive. When insurgency and militancy goes beyond 48 hours, those in government are complicit. Jonathan in 2014 was overwhelmed. Here he saw clearly that his security arrangement and his government have been compromised by bandits and bandits sympathizers. What did he do? He went to bring in South African missionaries. And Rudolph, you knew what happened. In 3 months, they rolled back and chased away these bandits from every corner of Nigeria. Elections were rigged against Jonathan by APC. In those areas, he cleared. If our leaders are sincere, for a sitting governor of Zamfara State, who is to say clearly that if the federal government of Nigeria and those who purport to lead our security apparatus, that they have the goodwill, the political will, that they can destroy the base in 2 weeks, Rudolph, all of us will listen. If we are very, let me tell you, somebody's house is on fire. You are calling neighbors to come and help you quench the fire. Rather than allow the neighbors to bring instruments and enough, bring water tank and everything. You are saying, oh, don't enter here. My pant is here. Don't enter here. My towel is here. You are invading my privacy. The truth is, if we are very, very sincere, we need to invite America, invite the Mossads, give them the just the way we invited South African missionaries to go in there and clear out. See, Nigeria is not even a big nation. We're not even big. We're not that big. If you put 3,000 American soldiers on the boot on the ground and support them with the American intelligence, Rudolph, in 3 weeks, you will look for Tuji Bello, you will look for Lukawara, you will look for Iswap, you will not see them. And that is the truth. But we keep on pussyfooting, we keep on pretending, we keep on deceiving ourselves. Nigeria's current security architecture is very compromised. Buhari became president and told us in 6 months, I will end this security. After looting and wasting $27 billion, Buhari ended up extending security from northeast to the whole part of Nigeria. What do you think happened in the southeast? Why do you think we had peace in the southeast? What Yoruba guy Olayede, a major general. In fact, one of his colleagues who lives in the UK, when the guy was appointed, told me that Nnaemeka, watch in 6 months, this guy will clear all the criminals in the southeast. And that was what the guy did. He was appointed 82 div leader in 6 months. Southeast today have peace. Of course, they will remove the guy. A space of 28,000 square kilometers. We have people climbing on non-gunmen. We have people creating camps from Osomoho to Ihube to Ako. If the governments are not complicit, Rudolph, if the governors are not lethargic, I say it myself, if I'm a governor of a state, I will not allow an inch of my land to be occupied by anybody who calls them unknown government or whatever I tell them by whatever name. I will wipe them out. And that is what happened over the last 6 months. And of course, the Trump effect. Truth is, the insecurity in Nigeria is being championed by those in power. If they decide today to end this in Nigeria, in 2 months, you will not see anybody anywhere in Nigeria. They know what to do. They don't want to do it.
All right. Thank you so much, Nnaemeka. I say this, because I understand your position and what you are trying to explain about insecurity in Nigeria. But you know that there is a political angle to what we are facing. And there's a story we talked about yesterday and of last week about the Nigerian government paying $8 million to a lobbying firm in Washington, D.C. to lobby for the government. Are you saying, because this story in New York Times is claiming that President Trump, what the idea of the story is that President Trump, that the sources, because he quoted figures from this organization and all the lawmakers who are supporting Trump to take action in Nigeria, they are saying to them, you guys are quoting sources that are not credible, that this guy is a screwdriver trader in Onitsha, that he makes up figures and facts in his bedroom. That's the fact that is out there and is being read by policymakers across the world, not just in America. How do you react to that?
Rudolph, are there no Christian genocide in North?
No, I'm not. It's not my position. I'm not.
Rudolph, why do we have 600 million Benue people in IDP camps? Why do we have 8.1 million Nigerians in IDP camp? Why do we have 30,000 Nigerians in refugee camps in Chad, in Niger, in Cameroon? Is Nigeria at war with any external force? Rudolph, how come a 150,000 strong army, over 10,000 strong air force with 10 Tucanos and other air sorties cannot defeat a ragtag army of insurgents and bandits by whatever name? Rudolph, how come a small location as the southeast that has just less than 28,000 square kilometers, we had people creating mayhem for over 2-3 years, having camps, and they could not be destroyed? Let us tell ourselves the truth. We know what is happening in Nigeria, and there's no amount of deflection or distraction that can stop the truth. Why should the government waste $9 million to go and change facts that are on ground, to change the narrative of what we know is the truth? If the federal government of Nigeria had destroyed Boko Haram, destroyed Lukawara, destroyed Fula bandits, and all the people who destroyed Nigeria, would that be a need for us to be looking for lobbyists to go and lobby and change narratives? What are we talking about here? The same thing happened in the US. For 4 years, ISWAP was busy. They practically took over 60% of the Middle East. The Democrats were busy playing pussy. Obama and co were busy playing pussy games. The man they call a madman, Trump, came in. And in less than 1 year, he destroyed reclaimed all the land that they occupied and ended up killing the dog, al-Baghdadi. We know the truth. The truth is, there is no insurgent, there is no militant, there is no terrorist, no matter how powerful, that can resist a government that is properly politically willed to stop them.
All right, let me get your view on this. This is also a breaking story. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Michael Zakome, charged with fraud over his claim on late General Jeremiah Husseini's property in London. Have you heard about the story?
Yes, I've heard the story.
Okay, what is your take on that?
If he is found culpable and guilty, he should be prosecuted. And that also comes to the level of greed we have in Nigeria. What would push a senior advocate of Nigeria, somebody of that level and class, to go on such shameful venture, voyage, or trying to confiscate or corner what does not belong to him? If the allegation is found to be true, they should not hesitate in prosecuting him. It's as simple as that.
Now, in Nigeria, there are cases that are still ongoing. One of them is that of the former Attorney General of Nigeria. He's so locked up. His son also is locked up. When you hear that, this is a man who was the chief law enforcer in Nigeria, and the kind of property and amount of money stolen, what is the reaction of Nigerians? Because he went back home on a private jet, and people came to welcome him. Now,
Rudolph. I want to believe that Malami was not the only person that worked in Buhari's cabinet, and I also want to believe that yes, I'm not holding brief for him, because when he was the chief law officer, he never respected any law, and I remember many times court orders were flouted and disobeyed by him. It was under his authority as the chief law officer that the house of the former CGN was raided for the first time in the history of Nigeria. It's not only Malami now. I've always said this. It's not only Malami, it's not a Mefiele. The stories are there. Richard Kansela became principal secretary to Buhari. Today, the guy owns owns an airline. He's in the UK now, hiding away. Billions of dollars stolen.
He owns an airline?
Rudolph, dig deeper. Let me tell you something there. You see, what happened under Buhari is something that Nigerians should never wish again for this country. I was sharing with somebody, I said, why do you think Nigeria, when Buhari became president, the exchange rate was $199 naira to $1. When Buhari left office, it was $4.60 to $1 official rate, and then $6.50 parallel market rate. The arbitrage rate was so huge that they were around triple. Even some of the people that claim that they are very wealthy in Nigeria, they were part of the nonsense. That's why I have no respect for those who claim to be billionaires in Nigeria. They know what they are doing. Under Buhari's government, Nigeria generated over $680 billion from crude oil sales, from loans and borrowings, FX loans and borrowings, from remittances by diasporans, Nigerian diasporans, $680 billion. What left Nigeria by way of imports was about less than $500 billion. Net, Nigeria had over $180 billion. We should have had over $180 billion in our Federal Reserve. But basically, what happened was that most of these monies were stolen. When they were doing a lot of round tripping, FS was being allocated to people. And let me tell you, Rudolph, a lot of see here. When I look at people, when they claim all this, they claim, oh, we built Nigeria. I laugh. Rudolph, some of them round trip dollar. They collected loans from CBN, subsidized rates. They collected loans, subsidized loans in single loans in Naira. They collected FX at official rate. They moved the money, over invoiced most of the assets they said they were bringing into Nigeria, moved the money out and brought it back and sold at the black market. They tell us, oh, we did project financing. We paid back 90% when the project have not started producing anything. We are not fools. I'm an investment banker of 25 years standard. I know what happens in this. I see things. I hear things. So the truth is, nobody should wish the Buhari can work in Nigeria. If Bola Tinubu is actually, and these people are actually serious, 95% of those who work in Buhari's cabinet should be under investigation. Most of them should be in Kirikiri. The other one that they alleged that they stole 80 billion. The one that paid $850,000 for his children to go to school eternally. The secondary school returned the money. It's not hearsay, Rudolph. The school where he transferred the money to, pressed by EFCC, returned the money back. They clearly accepted, we helped this man to launder money. Why is he not in jail? He's planning to go to Senate. Let us stop deceiving ourselves. We know that if we want to fight corruption in Nigeria, let me tell you, if we want to fight corruption in Nigeria the way we want to fight it, 90% of those who worked under Buhari should be in Kirikiri. It's not only Malami, it's not only Mefele. But they only target those who they feel okay. Oh, these ones are he has joined ADC, he has joined SDP, he's against us. As long as you join APC, all your sins are forgiven. We are not ready. When we are ready to fight corruption, I tell you, if we are ready to fight corruption, 99% of the politics, even those who are in National Assembly everywhere, should be in Kirikiri. Let us keep deceiving ourselves. Malami is not the problem, oh. Whatever they want to do, they should do to him. But I can tell you, there are 1,001 Malami today, even in the current government.
So very soon we'll open this up and let people come in to talk to you. One of the sentiments you might hear is that based on what you just said and based on what they've seen, that there is no hope for Nigeria. You heard a lot. Do you still have hope?
Rudolph, let me tell you the truth. The only thing that can save Nigeria as a country is if Tinubu will be humble enough to say, okay, even if he asks us to suspend the election for all this thing to happen, we'll allow it. We need to either we'll go back and fish out the 2014 confab report and recommendation and execute it, or we'll go back and pick the 1963 constitution, dust it up, adjust the regions from 4 to 6, adopt the whole physical governance, socio-economic and constitutional framework, the same parliamentary system of government, and then let Nigerians adjust to it. Anything outside this, we are just postponing the evil day. Let me tell you, I don't believe in party. PDP, APC, APGA, Labour, ADC, they are the same 5 fingers of one leprous hand. There is nothing different. There is no difference between. See, all you see, you're jostling around. There are only 2 governors in Nigeria who did not loot. One later became president. President Yar'Adua and Peter Obi. And if you watch Nigerian economic trajectory, the only time our economy grew the highest was under Yar'Adua in 3 years. Go and check the records. Nigeria had our economy grew the highest between 2007 to 2010. Despite the fact that he was sick. If Yar'Adua had been alive and was healthy, we wouldn't be where we are today. Because he was very honest, he was very sincere. He was the first president to publicly declare his assets and liabilities, him and his wife. Yar'Adua was practically destabilized. Yar'Adua wouldn't have allowed this nonsense Boko Haram and this swap he's doing. Of course, you saw what he did when they rose up against him. Yar'Adua was mightily destabilized. Yar'Adua was the one that stopped the cement nonsense when Dangote and Co were trying to kill it better. Yar'Adua stopped the rubbish. If Yar'Adua was alive and completed 88, we wouldn't be where we are today. But today, you will see all manner of criminals and thieves and hoodlums. You know the worst one, most of them are incompetent. Most of them are incompetent. It's like when you have a collection of incompetent criminals, it's like you handed over the warehouse to the devil. So the only thing that can save Nigeria, Rudolph, is for us to go back to the 1963 constitutional and physical framework. Anything short of, let me tell you, let's stop deceiving ourselves. So this country will continually retrogress until it gets to a point when all of us will decide, okay, enough is enough.
All right. One last question from me. Let me show you this. This is what Olabode Ifeanyi, that's the name on Twitter, something experimented it. So he got a receipt of items he bought in a store in 2020 and went back to buy exactly the same number of items in 2026. He spent 25,000 naira in 2020, and in 2026 he spent 147,000 naira, and it was based on his calculation 582% increase in price. So and he's now saying that if you're not making your pay in 2020 did not increase by 6 times, that you should consider yourself poorer as a result of this government coming to power. This is the exact items he bought, and the receipt in 2020 and the receipt now. Now, with this in mind, help us understand this new tax law. It's confusing to a lot of people who have even listened to the government. What is going on? What are we facing? What is the real thing going on?
Rudolph, you don't tax poverty. You don't tax unproductivity. You don't tax misery. And that is what we are doing. You know, I saw, Loyede has tried to do everything to bamboozle his way through. He said, if you have a net income, You can only be taxed if you're making up to 800,000 naira a year and all those stuff. I laugh when I see this kind of nonsense. Rudolph, World Bank has a threshold. The World Bank poverty income threshold is out there. It's between $3 to $5.5 net income a day. Anybody who is earning anything less than $3.3 to $5.5 net income a day, which is $90 a month to $165 a month, is regarded as poor by the World Bank standard and should be entitled to social welfare intervention and gifts, not taxing. Rudolph, in Nigeria today, if you convert this World Bank monthly income threshold, naira, it shows clear that anybody who is earning anything less than 130,000 naira to 240,000 naira a month is actually, anybody earning that is actually poor and should be entitled to social welfare intervention and not tax. When you even roll it over to 1 year, you're talking about almost 2.9 million. Anybody earning 2.9 million naira in Nigeria should not be taxed. In fact, the person is entitled to social welfare intervention. So how Oloyede came about that if you're making 800,000 naira, you should be taxed is something that was fixed out of their. They don't think when they make laws and policies, they don't look at what happened around the whole world. And I want to come back to Nigeria. Rudolph, today in Nigeria, if you look at the records by NDIC, out of the 116 million bank accounts in Nigeria, of course, we have only about 7 million Nigerians enrolled in BVN, which shows the actual number of Nigerians out of a population, about 138 million. Only about 7 million people are banked. That shows you the level of financial inclusion in Nigeria. You cannot plan veritably when you don't have financial inclusion of at least 80, 90%. Not like in Kenya, where financial inclusion is about 87%. And somebody is asking, okay, out of the 116 million accounts in Nigerian bank, I got NDIC, only about 0.6% has 500 naira deposit inside it. 500 naira deposit is about $330. So. And somebody is telling me, oh, what are you even taxing? Rudolph, I've taken time to say, today, we have over 600 trillion naira transactions that go to Nigerian banking industry every year. And I believe so much that we can actually do up to 1.8 quadrillion naira if we're very sincere and productive. I come from Southeast. When I see the GDP of Southeast and see what they are doing, I weep. Netherlands, with an arable land mass of 1.5 million hectares, less than 200 people from their agri sector generate almost about 122 billion euros annually from agri sector, agro value chain. From the Southeast where I come from, which is what we are pursuing passionately, with 26 million people at home based on the census, an arable land mass of 2.8 million hectares, we can actually do $200 billion revenue in the Southeast. Now, do you know what it simply means? Divide 200 billion naira dollars by the population. It will show you the level of GDP per capita that we can grow if we are very, very serious. If today, look at Brazil, look at South Africa. South Africa, in 2023, generated over $81 billion from taxation out of a national revenue of $1.6 billion. GDP per capita in South Africa is $6,000. Minimum wage is 330,000 naira. Look at Brazil. Look at Indonesia. Look at Malaysia. Our GDP per capita is $880. We are a massively unproductive country. What I expect these guys to be doing, what is tax? Tax actually rent, which people pay from their productive revenues. Today, they've made banks agents. And they are trying to say that if banks should be able to collect tax on their behalf. If banks are not able to collect tax, the banks will be liable. And I will tell you the truth. Most diasporans will stop moving money into the Nigerian banking industry. They will find ways of bringing money in. Because I cannot work in the UK and work in the US. I will work in South Africa. I will open a dorm account, another account in Nigeria. And I'll be transferring money to help reduce the effect of the poverty that this bandits created in Nigeria. And then somebody would ask, maybe he saw 50, 100 million pass through the account. Most of this money have been money sent to take care of people who are pregnant and could not pay for their hospital bill. It may be money spent to buy BP drug for an aged mother and other things, or to pay school fees for indigenous students. Then somebody will see turn over 10 bank, collect tax. You know, in this level of insensitivity, what I expect this government to be is, okay, what do we do to catalyze productivity? We have an arable land mass of 64 million hectares. We have 72 million farmers, peasant farmers who are uneducated, who don't even understand anything about the technology, about the science of agric. They just depend on rain-fed agriculture to survive. No storage. We lose over 3.5 trillion naira every year to post-harvest losses. I expect this guy to say, okay, if Netherlands, with 4.5 million hectares of arable land mass, less than 200,000 farmers are making 1.2 billion euros, how do we, harnessing 64 million hectares, training and retraining 72 million farmers, we can do multiples of what Netherlands do? If you have an economy that is generating $600 billion from the agri sector, and that employs over 40 million people, who are making nothing less than 3-4 million every month, you can easily place your tax. But they are not thinking about productivity. They are not thinking about anything that will enhance the welfare of the people. They are not thinking about how they can grow the GDP and the revenue base of Nigeria. All they are thinking is about how they can strip the poor, strip the diasporans, and do not the most unfortunate thing, Rudolph. It's not as if they're even collecting this tax, to use it to build roads. They're collecting it to loot, to go back to America to buy properties, go to Dubai, go to UK, go around the whole world. It's so shameful. But of course, most of their demented and disgruntled and misinformed followers abuse the clapping. It's so unfortunate.
Before I let people in, last time you came here, there were a lot of people who reached out to me. They wanted to reach out to you about investment in the Southeast, and I don't know how that turned out. Can you give us updates about what the plan you had and what you gave us an idea of what I think you called it greenhouse farming or something like that.
Rudolph, there's a guy from the US, fantastic guy. As I'm talking to you, the guy has done 60 hectares of palm plantations and is increasing it to about 100 this year. I give out shout out to him. As I'm talking to you, the guy has over 60 people employed in the agro park. What we are trying to do now is how we are going to intercrop the place with veggies to produce watermelon and other things that we are going to export into the UK, into Canada, into the US. He's a diasporan. He brought the message between Eche, a river state, Abia and a river state. The guy has done, as I'm talking to you, in less than 1 year, he has done 60 hectares. He's doing, let me tell you, Rudolph, it's a no-brainer. Michael Opara, my eternal mentor, between 1959 to 1966, under the Eastern Nigerian Development Corporation, created a land bank of 67,000 hectares and developed 67 acres. Michael Opera did over 27,000 acres of cocoa plantations. From Erei to Lonna to Ebariam to Ihe, you will see Michael Opera's footprint. In fact, in Ihe, Ohaji, Michael did 6,000 hectares of latex rubber plantation. If you go to Cross River, go to Uyo, you will see most of the cocoa plantations that Michael Opera did. And they had, as of 1965, Nigeria controlled 45% of the global palm oil market. Today, that market is $82 billion sized. And it's wanted to go to about $122 billion within the next 5 years. You know the most shocking thing? Indonesia and Malaysia came here in 1876 to pick the seedlings from the wild from Cross River State. And I said this, see, Rudolph, it's a no-brainer. I have spoken to the governors of the Southeast. We have, Rudolph, we have 1,246 electoral wards in Southeast. I said, if the governors are sincere, without all this abracadabra they are doing, if we are to dedicate 30% of our land mass, Rudolph, which is 840,000 hectares. Rudolph, in the next 2-3 years, will be getting nothing less than $300 billion from the South. It's a very simple practice. Rather than looting the fact and the jack, tell the communities. I was in the US between December 22nd to January 2nd. I traveled I from New York to Newark to Ottawa to Calgary to Toronto. I met Nigerians, mostly in Igbo, and even some Haitians who trace their route to Igbo. And it's a very simple thing. It doesn't take any skyrocket science. In my own community where I come from, Amagi Hube, we helped survey the land, a portion of the land, 178,000 hectares, before the unknown government came in. I built a 20,000 liter per day integrated oil refinery. I spent 98 million to build it in my village, in anticipation that we are going to do this 178 hectares of land, new palm plantation. As I'm talking to you, that place, everything in that place was looted. They took the unknown government, these idiots claiming that they're looking for, they are fighting for independence. Everything, all that, everything I built there, they looted everything. They even collected all the zinc from the factory because there was no security. The government, and I said, very simple. The people are not empowered. Rudolph, in every of the electoral resources outside those in the urban areas, there's nothing we are doing that the Israelis have not done or the Dutch people have not done. In Netherlands, out of the 1.5 million hectares, they have 18,360 agro-pastoral dairy centers where they collocate ranchers and those who are into crop production. I said we can do the same thing in Alibo. The governors working with local government chairman, it's a no-brainer. Those in diaspora, the car unions. As I'm talking to now, we are doing hundreds of thousands of the cocoa, hybrid cocoa seedlings, palm seedlings, the types the WIMA group is using in Malaysia that they did in Cross River. We are doing the moringa oleifera, we are doing the plantain orchards. Now, do you know, very simple. If in every electoral ward, the governor tells local government chairman, work with these people, let the community donate 200 hectares of their land, mobilize their youth and women, clear the land, provide them with industrial borehole, about 2 or 3, because there is no irrigation, there is no agric without scientific irrigation. Then you don't even need to use one. Rudolph, China has 7 million hectares of bamboo plantation. From that 7 million hectares, they generate $74 billion annually. Outside the $22 billion they earn from carbon credit, because a hectare of bamboo sequesters about 60 tons of carbon credit. For every 200 hectares that the world people they donate, you use bamboo, over 30,000 bamboo to fence it on 2 layers. 30,000, 60,000. That one alone will give us tens of thousands of dollars in carbon credits every year. Do industrial borehole. Employ 100 youths from such communities. Train them as agro-rangers and give them pump action rifles to protect their community. Rudolph, leave the rest for us as a private sector investors. Once we do the soil test, any community that is ripe for palm plantations, we will do 200 acres of palm for them. If it is cocoa that is available for that community, we'll do cocoa for them. If it is moringa oleifera, we'll do it for them. And Rudolph, with security in place, as I'm talking to you now, I have 3 containers that we are clearing. Tractors and agro equipment that we brought in. Because our plan is in every of the electoral ward, we must have tractors, bulldozers, and agro mechanized equipment to support agriculture. And even haulage vehicles to move things from the farm into storage centers. Rudolph, if we do this, it's a no-brainer. Each community will be able to have at least 200 youth millionaires. Each of them will manage 1 hectare. We will have processing plants in each of these communities that will process whatever they're processing. Rudolph, in the next 3 years, based on scientific knowledge-based agriculture, fully mechanized and tech-driven, Rudolph would get nothing less than $100 billion from the southeast of Nigeria within the next 2 years. Michael Obama did it between 1960 to 1966. If the visionary Michael could do it at an age where we do not have AIs and robotics and the current technology we have, what is stopping the governors from? Somebody asked me, why not bring the private to do it? Rudolph, the guy who did 60 hectares of land. If I tell you the kind of war we are fighting to protect that land in terms of security, you will not believe it. Why government is very essential is because, one, by reason of the Land Use Act, land belongs to government. And we expect government to provide CFO for those lands. By the reason of security architecture of Nigeria, is only a governor that can get the National State Assembly to pass vigilante laws that will allow agro rangers that will carry pump action. If I, as Nnaemeka, decide to recruit 100 youths to arm them, they will call me a kidnapper. So you can't do this without government. And we have shared this thing with the governors. And thankfully, some of them are coming up. Rudolph, if we do this, we will create hundreds of thousands of jobs in the Southeast. If you take 100 hectares of land from the forest of every ward in the Southeast, there will be no place for kidnappers or non-government to go and hide. And most of the guys who are living in the bush, people are not known to live in the bush. Most of them are living in the bush because of hunger, because of poverty, because they've been promised things that they could not achieve based on honest economic activities. But these guys are not serious. They are not doing it. What Michael Obama did 55 years ago is what we are begging people to do. The lowest hanging fruit. And I tell you, June, as I'm talking to you now, I have a maggot farm in Ukwa West, Abia State. A maggot farm that does almost about 10 tons of maggot. Iburu, lava. Check me, Google it. In Canada now, 15 kg of dry lava is selling for $289. And Rudolph, I produce the same 15 kg for less than $6. But the problem is that we need to have people in government, people in authority. There are no certification labs that can help us process it, certify it, so that it can enter Canadian market. All we expect that if we have government that is working in all the embassies from Canada to UK to US, we should have commercial attaches and scientists who can actually help us to see how we can get all the certifications, all the things that will enable us to export this into Canada, into US, into UK. Nigeria and the South tick all the right boxes for us to create a mega economy that will make you very prosperous. But the problem we have is that we lack leaders in the mood of Michael Obama, in the mood of Ladeep Jokonde, in the mood of Desambakwe. What we have are motley crowd of criminals, political bandits, supported by some disingenuous, brainwashed, religious people who call themselves citizens.
Wow. Thank you, Nnaemeka. Let's go to our panelists, people who have been waiting for you to finish the conversation with me so that they get involved. And so when I call you, please ask the best question you have so that we can get to as many people as possible. When we finish with this set, we'll take a break. If you are still available to talk to us, we'll get the next set. All right, let's start with you, Valhalla. You're first. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening from here, from Nigeria, and thank you very much for gracing the program, Dr. Nnaemeka. I've heard your solutions and your analysis, and I think as it concerns how to, reproduce a policy and for it to bring out results in the grassroots, I think you've got that part very well. What I do not really get from your analysis is the fact that you gloss over geopolitical realities and how those realities affect, local security, arrangements, and especially for a country like Nigeria, which is quite strategic. And if you look at the NSS documents of the United States, the National Security Strategy, what essentially Trump argued there was that that henceforth the United States will act on its strategic interests, and there he lists Africa as the last bastion, an area where America will, look for. And he clearly stated that extraction would be what Africa will be for, and that products, manufactured will be then dumped in Africa. Now, what do you suppose is happening when you talk about, security, and the geopolitical reality? Do you agree with Donald Trump and his approach towards that? And if you were to be at the helm of affairs, and you are now forced to take a decision whether to leave your economy as an extractive economy or to move it forward to an industrial economy, what would your decision be, and how would you try to navigate that, especially since you believe that Trump's approach, which is essentially might is right, who essentially said that I am not guided by any law but my own morality? What would be your position? How would you navigate that as a leader? Thank you.
Okay, I want to ask you one question, and I want to repeat it again. Between 1960 to 1970, Nigeria was ahead of South Korea, Nigeria was ahead of Malaysia, Nigeria was ahead of Indonesia, Nigeria was ahead of Singapore, Nigeria was ahead of Brazil. Go and fact check me. After 1960, our GDP was about $4.3 billion. South Korea was $3.9 billion. As at 1970, our GDP was $12.55 billion. South Korea was $9.3 billion. We even gapped them. Today, South Korea has a GDP of about $1.7 trillion. Brazil has GDP of about $2.3 trillion. Indonesia, $1.3 trillion. Nigeria, GDP, $188 billion. Rebased to useless $2.3 billion. Have you ever heard Donald Trump dictating for Brazil? Dictating for Indonesia?
Well, Dr. Nnaemeka, my answer to you would be...
I'm coming, please, I'm coming. Have you ever seen Donald Trump? Tiny Singapore, 721 square miles, 5.6 million people. Have you ever seen Donald Trump telling them how to run their country and everything? Now, let me tell you something. I want to answer that
question. Of course, he did tell Brazil how to run their country. He asked them to release...
Let me come in. Let me answer you straightforward. When you talk about extraction and refining and whatever, I'll give you a practical example of what we are doing. I deliberately set up. Let me tell you, I will give you example why America, if we are very sincere. Because, there's something about Africans that irritates me. We like recriminating. We like blaming everybody but ourselves. There was a time in this country when you don't need any visa to go anywhere. Carry your passport, enter any plane. America will welcome you. Britain will welcome you. What changed? I give you an example. I mentioned something we are doing. I have a rice mill in two places. I produce rice across the budget, and I produce rice bran. I have a maggot farm. I will have simply produced the maggot, put it in cellophane, and export it as raw dried maggot to the US. I have a moringa farm, the best moringa species. The Kwashiorkor ones we have in the north, those are about 3 tons of seeds every year, 2 tons of leaf. The Momax 3 and the PKM2. And let me tell you how I brought it in. It's very simple. I was buying it for $122 in the US, and they will use $102 to freight it. And the criminals at Falomo, who call the customs, will collect 68,000 naira. It was costing me 452,000 naira to bring 3,000 seeds of the hybrid that can give me 120 tons of leaf and 9 tons of seed, because they are the only ones that have it. But you know what I did? I didn't have, and I will not mention them. There was a professor in Emory University, an Igbo man. He was the one that was helping me. I thought about it. How do I get, if I continue this way, the cost of production will be killing. All I did, he helped me to contact the guys, the producers in Tamil Nadu in India. I will buy it from them, ship it to Bombay. And our brothers who are coming from Bombay, Igbo brothers, they will bring it 5 kg, 10 kg, 20 kg, and we pay them rather than pay $102 per kg. I was paying them $15 per kg. Today, we are doing 2.7 million of it in the starting. Let me tell you what we are doing now. From my rice bran, from my moringa, from my maggot farm, and from my snail farm, I am using the snail shells, the rice bran, the maggot, powdered maggot, and moringa powdered leaf to produce the best animal feed. I've been able to crash animal feed prices poultry from 27,000 per 50 kg, 25 kg bag to 50,000. And poultry farmers are rejoicing. I did not wait for America to process it. It was a very simple. I got a nutritionist. I got an animal. I got the smart Nigerians. There's a lady in Cleveland. As I'm talking to now, we imported some things from France. We imported cookies from France that was produced from groundnut, from milk, powdered milk and everything to fight malnutrition. As I'm talking to them, that lady has discovered a recipe. We have over 10,000 sugarcane plantations at Igbere. The lady has discovered a recipe where we can use our sugarcane syrup and the moringa cakes that will crash the price of from France to fight malnutrition in Africa. We are manufacturing it and we are producing it. We didn't wait for America. You know, I find this so irritating.
Respectfully, sir, just this what I want to just say, and then
let me come in. And let me say, India, America had tried to bully India. They couldn't bully India. You are aware of that. They could not stop Modi from buying oil from whenever I want to buy oil. The truth is, if Nigerians we decide today between me and you to put our best 11 forward to support those, was America not there when Michael Okpara was premier of Old Eastern region? Was America not there when Simon Bakwe did over 28 corporations in the old Imo and Abia state in 3 years? Did America stop him? The truth is, we allow the worst of us, the most corrupt, the most incompetent, because of our ethno-religious awareness. If not for Nnoti, if Nnoti has compromised like other criminal university VCs, Alex Oti wouldn't have been governor of Abia State. Rather than blame America, rather than blame for giving us criminal human assets, we should look inward. Nobody will fix your country. You see, let me tell you, if America today, if Nigeria today, does America detect for South Korea? Does America detect for Malaysia, Indonesia? These were countries we were ahead of. I understand the political risk. I understand America's hypocrisy and manipulation. But I will tell you something. It is the rats at home that will tell the rats outside there is fish in the shelf. If the rat at home does not tell the rat outside there is fish in the shelf, rat outside will not come in. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me go to somebody else. If we have a chance, the time we can go back, you can come back a second time and ask a follow-up question. But for now, we have to go to someone else. Tony, you're next.
Good afternoon, good morning, greetings, Dr. Nnaemeka, greetings, Dr. Damages, and greetings to our guest. First of all, Dr. Damages, I have this, I have gotten it. Thank you. Dr. Nnaemeka, you actually have touched on the question that I wanted to ask you. I wanted you to do me a comparison of Nigeria's economy in the 60s, in comparison with what we have now, and what is the explanation for what we see now. But you touched. I think you answered the question for me.
In fact, let me give you the details why we are where we are. In the 1960s, we had a Constitutional fiscal framework that allowed the region to generate and keep 50% of whatever they generate within their domain. That allowed them to contribute 30% to the central port, and only 20% goes to the federal government. And the exclusive list was limited to international affairs, foreign relationship, and security. That was why Ahmadu Bello decided, when the MPC won majority seats in the parliament, as leader of MPC, Ahmadu Bello was supposed to be prime minister. I hope you understand how parliamentary government works. But Ahmadu Bello never accepted to go to Lagos. He sent Tafawa Balewa to represent him. He stayed behind to build his beloved north. We had massive groundnut pyramids. We had cotton plantations, and we had massive textile companies in the north. In the west, till today, the tallest building in the pattern was built by Bafemi Awolowo using cocoa proceed. In the old eastern region, we had one of the most progressive, smartest leaders What did he do first? He first of all got an American company to help him develop a clear roadmap of what he wanted to do. Are you aware that before gas was used in Lagos to power industries in year 2000, Michael Okpara used gas to power from Michelin to other companies in Port Harcourt and Aba. Aba and Port Harcourt was the first centers to have gas-powered industrialization between 1960 to 1963. So all the regions developed at their pace. We had security. Each of them had their own regional police. You could enter Rumubu in the night and travel using your Bedford truck to Pambegua. Nobody will molest you. Nobody was looking at the crude oil because there was no crude oil then. Everybody looked inward to develop and harness their latent resources. And of course, we had an electoral framework and a socio-economic arrangement that allowed the smartest and the best of us to emerge. And of course, we had an arrangement where the perks of office of public servants were tied to that of the civil service.
Sorry, doctor, let me just throw in one. While we had all these things, what was the role of religion and ethnicity in the politics?
I am coming. In parliament, the wealthiest man in Africa was a parliamentarian. Sir Louis Odumegwu. He was chairman of the 15 topmost corporations in Nigeria. He wasn't there because he wanted contracts. He wanted to loot. In fact, he was in parliament when they talking. Somebody harangued him. Somebody interjected and interrupted him. He walked away. He never went back to parliament. Let me tell you why. There was ethnicity. There was religion. But it was not as outlined as it is today because everybody minded their affairs. There was no need for anybody to rig an election, to kill and to maim, because nobody wanted to go and occupy the prime minister position. Because now, in fact, the prime minister position became interesting when Tafawa Balewa and co. aligned with Akintola to deal with Awolowo. That when people began to, so this prime minister can be this powerful. Before then, nobody cared who was prime minister. Because every region grew at their own level, and people concentrated on what worked for them. Of course, you heard the popular saying when they interviewed Ahmadu Bello. He said, if he cannot get people that work in the civil service, he will employ expatriates. He was allowed to do it because that was his own people. They had their own affairs. They were making their own affairs. The regions had their own sub-embassies. In Enugu, my mother does not need to come to Lagos to attend visa interview to go to UK or US. You go to Enugu, you will attend the interview, you will travel out. There was no visa requirement. But the whole thing got messed up when Gowon decided to confiscate all the monies of the regions to prosecute the civil war and dissolve the physical structure. From then to today, Nigeria have never known peace. If we want this country to work, there was a foundational and physical arrangement that was entered into by our founding fathers. They knew clearly there was religious schism. They knew clearly there was a religious bigotry. They knew clearly there was ethnicity in Nigeria then. Of course, there was the killing of 1945, even before independence, when the Igbos were massacred in the north. They saw all this, and Awolowo was most foresighted among all the founding fathers. Awolowo was, but he was the only one that asked, let us put secession as a clause, so that if anybody do higher, others can go. Zik refused because he was looking at having a Pan-African view. The only way this country will work is for us to go back to that constitutional and physical foundation that our founding fathers entered. As long as we continue to entertain this Babiala, criminal feeding bottle federalism, let me tell you, there are only very few of us who are very altruistic. When you see some of this elite talk, some of them are cowards. I ask this question: how can a man who can eat straight? I got this from my father. My father told me something that shocked me. My father was the chairman of Agric and Allied Workers Union, ADC, when Mbako was governor. ADC was a parastatal that was supposed to be quasi-independent. They had a GM who was a thief. They were stealing the money and they could not pay salary. And my father led the staff to embark on a strike. Mbako intervened. They had a meeting. Mbako called a meeting. And the question was, my father is that the man must be sacked, that the management must be sacked. That's the only way. They lingered for 2 weeks. For Ndibo, we believe in incarnate. My father believed I was his father reincarnated. So sometimes, anytime he's taking some high shots, he will always call me. I was about 9 years old. My father would sit me down. My father's salary then was about once in 3 naira a month. The only thing he had in the whole world was a Honda 175. Before my very as a 9-year-old boy, my father was offered 5,000 naira plus 504 car for him to call off the strike. My father refused. And of course, the man was eventually sacked. When they were now trying to retrench to balance the books, he was the person that they asked to go. We have very few people in Nigeria today who can live like my father, who are honest, who are sincere, who are willing to forego incur losses to stand for the truth. That is why I respect Peter Gregory Obi. Peter Gregory Obi has no business killing himself trying to rescue a people that don't want themselves to be rescued. And of course, somebody must do it. So when you see most Nigerian elites talking, they talk from the mouth. Most of them are cowards. Most of them are very, very greedy. They talk because they want to be noticed and appointed. That is why today I respect people like Dele Farotimi. There are still very few Nigerians who have refused to kiss the feet of Baal, and the number will keep on increasing.
All right. Thank you. Tony, thank you. We have to leave it there.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Let's go to someone else so that we can, I don't know how much time he still has for us. Izon, you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Igor. Yeah, I've been listening to you. I've actually seen your channel a couple of times, and I think on your economic policies and your ideas regarding how to generate revenue internally, I think there's some really good ideas there, especially on the local government level. But listening to your analysis on Venezuela, it's either you're being disingenuous or you're misinformed. As I listen to you, you seem to justify the ability of someone like Trump removing, whether or not you agree with the election is irrelevant, removing an elected president from a sovereign nation and bringing him into a totally different jurisdiction to face trial. And I don't know if you've heard the charges on the trial. And then you talk about the Bolivarian Revolution in Venezuela, which I've read very carefully and I've followed very carefully. You seem to claim that the people of Venezuela are against the revolution that they initiated through Chavez. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there was a coup against Chavez, orchestrated by the Bush government. And do you know what stopped that coup? The people of Venezuela. They came out in the streets and they forced the generals to release Chavez. And then the sanctions came. And you're an economic guy, so I'm sure you're aware of this. How does a country function when the Bank of England withholds £1 billion of Venezuelan gold? Sanctions Citgo, their oil company that actually had retail outlets in the United States, prevents them from selling their oil to most of the countries in around the world, and also takes active steps to sabotage their internal politics and economy. And so there's poverty in Venezuela primarily because of the economic war that has been waged on that country. Now, what bothers me the most is that as good as your economic policies are, I hope you're not willing to concede to hegemony to make a profit, because that makes your ideas dangerous. A nation should have to control its own sovereignty and determine its own economic future. It should never be determined by someone else. And the reason why I said there's some hypocrisy in what you're saying is, on one end, you support Greenland and the people of Greenland determining their future, but you don't seem to have the same support for the people of Venezuela. How do you reconcile that?
All right.
I'll let you speak.
Thank you.
You see, a people has the right to determine what happens within their domain. I here shared with you 2021, Nnaemeka, the GMD of NNPC, on our Rise TV, told us gleefully that every month, $1.9 billion of our crude resources are lost to thievery and inefficiency. And it's not as if these thieves are not known. It's not as if these inefficiencies, the cost is not known. $22 billion of 220 million people stolen by very few. And you know them. They are not ghosts. No poor man, even you and I cannot steal crude oil. In 10 years under Buhari, we lost $220 billion to crude oil thievery and inefficiencies. And we are a sovereign nation. And you and I are helpless. I cannot stop it. I have no power to stop it. You and I also know that in this same country, under the supposed corrupt Jonathan, we had a semblance of democracy. The crude oil was doing 2.8 million barrels a day. Now, I want to ask you this very question. Of what use is the sovereignty and independence of Nigeria when between 1999 till now, over $300 billion have been looted out of our economy? Where you live, I don't know where you live. And interestingly, most Nigerians abroad in the UK, and I will put it forward to you guys in diaspora.
Can I answer that question? Can I answer that question?
Let me come in.
Rudolph, you asked me a question. Can I answer it?
Most of you guys in diaspora.
Let me answer the question. You said you put it to me. You asked me a question. Let me answer his question. You said over 300 billion have been stolen in however many years you mentioned. Now, and that's you saying it. We have to verify those facts, by the way. But what I will say is this. Regardless of how much has been stolen, regardless of how many criminals we have, regardless of how many useless people we have in government, it is our problem and it's our problem to fix. And it's up to us, as citizenry of the country, to mobilize ourselves as much as we can, come together and challenge and fight as much as we can. Regardless of how we do it, we have to come up with that solution ourselves. Now, what you are advocating for is to externally bring someone else with a different agenda, different history, and someone else who, by the way, has a history of subjugating us, to come into our space and help us fix the problem that they have no interest in doing. That is dangerous. Not only is it dangerous, it is almost madness, because we're repeating the same mistake we made before. So I agree with you on all the theft and all the issues, but your solution is flawed historically and factually.
Are you aware that between 2012 and 2014, Jonathan practically lost portions of Nigeria to Boko Haram? Jonathan had the army. He was commander-in-chief. Jonathan had the navy. Will you call Jonathan? What will you tell Jonathan now when Jonathan decided, okay, I've had enough. I want to bring in South African mercenaries to come and help me clear this mess? Was Nigeria not a sovereign nation when he did it? Did he achieve any results? Yes, he achieved results. Guy, let me tell you this. It's one thing to stay 12,000 kilometers away. Let me give you a typical example now. What happened to us live? You see, Nigeria is a criminal enclave run by criminals and bandits, supported by, let me tell you, I say it again, I will repeat it again live. 80% of Nigerians are unscrupulous. Do you know why? If we are not, because these guys, I saw the other day, policemen were beating a keke guy. They beat him to stupor. Colonel is really catching keke, and people were shouting. Oh, I told them, I said, those police guys represent a majority of us. The truth is, in as much as I may not agree with everything America does, I've said it here. I have pointed out their hypocrisy. Some of you here will say, oh, the Ugandans can handle their affairs. The Cameroonians will. For over 40 years, one man and his family have continued to decimate a country. Uganda in the 70s was a very, go and check Uganda before Idi Amin came in. Uganda was doing so well. Idi Amin came in and chased away all the whites, chased away all the Jews, chased away all the Lebanese, chased away all the Asians. The same thing you guys are talking about. Claim nationalism. Nationalize everything those guys built in Uganda. Today, where is Uganda? You see, the truth is, if my house is burning, and let me come in, if my house is burning, and I see a madman walking on the street, who who has water to quench the fire and is willing to help me quench the fire, will I say because he's a madman, I won't allow him quench the fire and allow my house to burn to shred? My brother, God
But
help us.
if that madman has a history of quenching the fire and also
I didn't stop you, but I wanted to actually, but somebody else did. But it's important that we let other people get involved in the conversation. If we have the time, we can come back to you to follow up. But sorry, as someone who is bigger than me behind the scene. All right, let's go to the next person because we are running out of time. We have 3 minutes, 3 hours. We are approaching 2.5. All right, James, please quickly a question or a comment, and then we go to someone
Just a brief comment. The man, our guest has spoken well. The issue is that, let me go straight to the point. Nigeria as a nation is beyond redemption.
Thank you.
I was born and bred in Nigeria. I grew up in old Bender, in fact, Midwest state, before it became Bender state. And eventually I left the country. The good times we had in the past, compared to what we're going through now, there's a whole wall of difference. The country is beyond redemption. Let us be very frank with ourselves. There's nothing wrong for a country to break up. Absolutely nothing. Pakistan was part of India in 1947. They found it necessary to detach themselves from India. Along the line, Bangladesh detached themselves from Pakistan. Eritrea detached themselves from Ethiopia. Bosnia and Herzegovina, Czechoslovakia, the Ottoman Empire, through the Versailles Treaty of 1990, when it collapsed, nations sprang up in Eastern Europe. So there's nothing wrong if a country decides to call, the marriage, to put an end to the marriage. However, what is there is this: there's nothing new under the sun. According to the Christians, somewhere in the Bible, there's nothing new under the sun. All these problems we are going through, other African countries have already gone through it, and some are still going through it, some are yet to go through it. In the Republic of Ghana, if you know what happened before 1979, it's just, what we are going through now is a child's play. They went through hell. Jerry Rawlings came, 1979, a lot of people, including 3 former heads of states, Afrifa, Akufo, and Achampong, were put before firing squads and they were sent to hell. In Liberia, from 1822 to 1980, a period of about 158 years or so, the American Liberians, they turned the country upside down. These were descendants of freed slaves who were enslaving the native Liberians. They met in the Republic of Liberia. In 1980, Samuel Doe toppled the government. In the month of April or so, 40 top-ranking senators and government officers were put before a firing squad. If we are prepared to go through that route, fine, it's up to us to decide. But in conclusion, I want to say that if people get the government they deserve, that's a statement credited to Socrates. Not until we, as a people, allow ourselves to be free to the extent that you can worship God and devil in equal measures in the country, we will never see the promised land, let alone entering it. Anyway, I don't have enough time to discuss with you because the time is strictly limited. I would have liked to engage you in a private discussion. Thank you very much for coming. I want to reiterate that Nigeria as a country is beyond redemption. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. James, for that. Let's go to the next person, Chris. Quickly, because we're running out of time, just go straight to your question or comment.
Yes, good evening, sir. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, mine is a question. I came in just because you talked about tax and the money in the bank. So is it based on is the taxation based on the money in the bank? Or, because it's not well explained. So I would like to know more, a little bit, if you can. But more importantly, because I'm interested in, I don't know if you are a consultant or something. Is there any way we can get your number? You know, I'm interested in the maggot business. I have a fish farm.
Oh, that's good. Of course, I will make my number available to Rudolph so he can share with you guys. That would be very, very good. It's something, whether you're a poultry farmer or you're a fish farmer or you're a pig farmer or even any other thing, is something you must have to. It makes your feed cost cheaper than any other thing. Now, you raise the issue of taxation. There is this tax policy in Nigeria that is either a percentage of your profit or turnover. And it was introduced because they felt that some people were under declaring their profitability based on economic. So they normally put a percentage of turnover based on economic activities to the banking industry, the turnover of your bank statement. Now, you hear them, if you read through some of the provisions of the law, there was a provision that said clear that banks are agents of FIRS, that's Nigerian Revenue, the new name they gave it. The banks are charged to collect the tax, and where the banks fails, the banks will be held liable for default. Now, how do you determine what is taxable to people based on turnovers in their accounts? That's the question. We know clearly, based on realistic numbers, that 197 million Nigerians are not even qualified to be taxed. We know realistically, based on the World Bank income threshold, that anybody that is anything less than 2.9 million naira a year is not even qualified to be taxed. In fact, the person is a social welfare case. If he's in America or the UK, he will be on food stamp, another social welfare intervention. So if by the World Bank indicators, you're supposed to be a welfare case if you are earning between 1.6 and 1.6 to 2.9 million every year. How come somebody who is rational and reasonable decided to put tax on 800,000 naira a month? And for those of us who live in Nigeria, ask those who live there, they will tell you. I was sharing with somebody, I said, anybody in Nigeria who earns any family of 4 in Nigeria that earns less than 12 million a year is actually poor. Somebody called me yesterday. The landlord increased rent, 1 bedroom. I did say 2 bedroom, 1 bedroom in Aja from 1.8 million to 2.4 million naira. One bedroom. 1 bedroom cannot accommodate a family of 4. 2.4 million. You and I know that even some of the Christian schools, missionary schools, that used to be very cheap. I'll give you an example. The Deeper Life School, the Redeem School, the Faith Academy School that used to be very, very, they used to collect school fees of 120,000 a month a term. Now it's about 485,000 a term. So for a family of 2, in a year, they're supposed to be paying almost about 3 million naira for the school fees. Add 3 million to 2.4 million, that is 5.4 million. We know, even in darkness, a family of 4 consumes nothing less than 100,000 naira. If you are in band A or band B, every year, every month on darkness, multiply it is about 1.2 million. A family of 4, even if they are eating 1,000 naira food every day, which you know is impossible based on food inflation, we consume 4.3 million every year. Add 4.3 million to 5.6, almost 10 million. We've not talked about healthcare. We've not talked about clothing. We've not talked about transport. You know, when I see the kind of nonsense they do in Nigeria, they say, oh, we did social welfare intervention. We gave 50 households 800 naira every month. I laugh. And people see this madness and they support it. The truth is, any family of 4 that do not earn anything less than 12 million, based on purchasing power that is in Nigeria, are not supposed to be taxed. But you know the unfortunate thing, these guys are not on the street. These guys all their life have lived looting public sector funds. These guys have never for one day set up enterprises, set up works. In the agro parks where we work, the least paid agronomist is 150,000 naira. And that 150,000 is basic to allow him stay in the farm. It does not entail any other allowances and every other thing. And practically, and they entitled to 20% of whatever profit that they make from their farm. And even in my head, I know that money is not even enough. But in Nigeria, somebody placed minimum wage at 70,000 naira. And you expect the civil servant not to steal. Does it make sense? And out of that same time, you still collect tax. Does it make sense?
All right. Thank you, Chris. Let's go to Oti. You are next.
Oh, I see. I thought there are people that came before me, but it's okay. I have an easy question for Emeka Banking. I do watch your your clips, very informative. So now you said that 70% of Igbos would opt out of Nigeria if if given the chance. So I just wonder, how did you get that figure? And does it include those? I mean, those that own 70% of property in Banana Island? That's my question.
Okay.
The simple
We
one.
have a register.
Am I in the register?
We have a register. We have a register. Yes, we have a register.
I'm not captured in the register. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how.
I said we have a register. You know, you're asking me how you talked about the property ownership.
Oh, no,
I said
no,
we have a
no,
register.
but, the question really is, the 70% you said, that the Igbos that would choose to.
Okay. The number is more than 70. I have actually done some rough samples. Okay, are you on Facebook?
Yes, but I'm not active.
Okay, if you're active on Facebook or Twitter or in any Igbo group, just go there and just do random referendum.
Okay.
No, random. You know, I interact with people. I belong to over 200 groups,
right?
Both on Facebook and the WhatsApp. Just let me tell you. I ask you this question.
Right.
Tell me anywhere in the whole world where somebody will borrow $200 million. He had all the titles on the land, developed a massive tourist center that was generating billions of naira every day, that employed thousands of people every day. Somebody woke up. He wanted to do Coastal Road. Destroyed the whole properties before realizing again that road is not supposed to enter there, and he shifted it.
No, okay,
in which country?
I understand the problem. I'm not, you see, for me, the question really is, ungovernability, okay? So, and that is the problem of Nigeria. So the thing really is, if, as you are making the case, which I agree with, a restructured Nigeria, okay? In that case, the question really wouldn't be, the option wouldn't be leaving Nigeria or not leaving.
No. Let me tell you upfront. A restructured. In fact, let me tell you, the world is the Igbo man's Igbo man's village. The world is Igbo man's village. A restructured Nigeria, where there is merit, where there is justice,
where there is determination,
where the regions have the same structure we had in 1960. Let me tell you, no Igbo man will want to leave Nigeria.
You see then, so that's the thing. So it's a matter of
that's the thing, yeah. But under this toxic marriage, under this atmosphere, where somebody will go and buy a swamp, develop the swamp, employ people from that swamp, create so much, when somebody wakes up to destroy him and tell him go back to your village. So why do we answer one nation? It doesn't make sense. People are better off in the United Nigeria, built on excellence, built on equity, built on merit, built on transparency, just like we had it in the First Republic. There's no denying it. Like I say again, the world is Igbo man's village.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Oti. Let's go next. I'm not following any particular order of people coming in. So anybody who feels that I picked them last, sorry. Let's go to Jonaba. Jonaba, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Rudy, for having me and fellow panelists and the guests of today. My question to Dr. our guest, Emeka, is that I heard you from the beginning and then talking about the hypocrisy of America and at the same time saying that most African nations copy the United States constitutions, and which is 8 years at most, and there are no practices in Africa, and hypocrisy. And do you think America, to the best of your knowledge, are there to help any African nation to develop?
America will always protect American interests. Sometimes I get worried when people do not see beyond the rhetorics. Here was a man who has this nationalistic fervor, who sees himself as a knight in a shining armor, who campaigned on one mantra: America first. A man who is even willing to disavow and alienate his allies once he feels that the interests of America and his own interests are threatened. What I would have expected, see, America is not altruistic in the real sense of it. America is for Americans. I'll give you an example. I was sharing with somebody. I'll give you a typical example of what happened in Nigerian capital market to show you how stupid some of us can be at times. America has, as I'm talking to you now, we are getting an investment banking license in the New York Stock Exchange to start trading because we want to mobilize funding into Nigeria. Let me give you an example. Between year 2000 to between the 1995 to 2015, Chinese companies mobilized $1.28 trillion out of the US market to develop factories and manufacturing concern in China. I met some investment bankers from Haiti. In fact, there's one wealthy guy, one Haitian. He said he did his DNA mapping and he traced his roots to Onitsha. The man invited me specially to come and see him. He has seen my videos and he wants to see how he can help Munendibo to mobilize fund. And that is what is even triggering this investment banking thing. The guy shared with me, he's a 73-year-old man. He has been in the Wall Street for 3 years. He gave me an example again of how one of our brothers set up the same scheme, mobilized $5 million and transferred the money to Nigeria to build hotels. Did 5 years in the USJ. They released him. He came back. He's in Nigeria now enjoying the money, but he can't go to US. He's an ex-convict. And this is how warped and myopic most of us are. But the guy told me how the Chinese were able to mobilize 1.2 trillion, invested in their country, made profit, and repaid back without any story. Now, let me give you an example. American capital market has a debt asset of $100 trillion. America has pension fund asset of $45.7 trillion. America is one country that can spin out $20.3 trillion revenue. Twice what China can do. Forget all this noise they're making about China challenging America. China is no match for America in terms of capital mobilization. America GDP per capita is over $8,000. But do you know that to get an investment banking license, to work as a broker dealer in the US, to trade for yourself and for your customers, you only need $250 to get the license. To get a broker license just to trade for yourself, you only need $100,000. That's a market that has 168 million people trading inside it. A market that has tens of thousands of companies listed. Now come to Nigeria. Because the can also increased bankers, deposit money banks share capital, which is required because the asset of banks is cash. And so, even if you increase the capitalization of banks to 10 trillion, it will still be valuable there because they want to use it to trade. Do you know what somebody in Nigeria SEC did? This is a market that is so shallow. A market that has capital market depth of $67 billion. Not even up to 5% of South African capital market is $1.3 trillion. Their pension fund is over $200 billion compared to our paltry $3 billion. Do you know what somebody woke up because you can also rightly increase bankers' minimum capital. In a capital market where less than 10% of active investors are trading because Nigerians are wary of the criminality going on there. Somebody is excited to increase broker dealer minimum capital to $1.37 million. Tell me why me, as a Wall Street licensed investment banker, we cough out $1.37 million to trade in a shallow capital market that does not even have up to 100 companies that are making profit. In a shallow capital market that I will have to beg people to trade, when I can use a quarter of that money to get licensed and trade in the US stock market and mobilize funding to investments in Nigeria. Make it make sense. Those are the kind of square pegs and round holes that we have in Nigeria. People that think through their annals, people that don't think with their brain. What I should have expected in all over the world, the same thing we're talking about Trump. You saw what he's doing with crypto and other things, trying to lower cost of doing. See, all in a right thinking environment. What I would have expected those in SEC, Abuja, and Nigerian Stock Exchange is to go out there begging companies like Innocent, begging companies like Tiger Food, begging companies that they risk that have demonstrated capacity to come and list on the floor of Nigerian Stock Exchange. What I've expected them to have done was to look at some of these our tech gurus to see how we can get some smart tech Nigerians, fintech companies, to see how they can develop apps that enable Nigeria to trade remotely. You can trade from the US. What I expected them to have done was to even reduce the entry capital to encourage people and increase trading so that more people can come in. So that Nigerian capital market can at least have the depth of treatment of South Africa. If today, the only way you can grow any economy is capital mobilization, and it's already established based on the economic development master plan Okoji was developed under Obasanjo, that for Nigeria to move from our current shithole jungle to second world level, we will need unbridged, undiluted, uncircumvented, over $100 billion capital inflow investment into Nigeria annually for the next 30 years. $1 billion investment. How you can generate $100 billion investment into an atmosphere of chaos and nonsense they are doing. So you can blame Donald Trump, you can blame anybody, but do that. We have in Nigeria people who are not thinking. I spent 12 days in the US, and Canada, overseas cities. I met people. When you see the love for Nigeria is so much among Ndibo and Haitians and those who are, but the problem is these guys are willing to mobilize. But how can somebody suffer in the US, make so much money, toil day and night, and get money and give it to idiots to waste for you in Nigeria? Does it make sense?
All right, thank you, Janaba. We quickly move to, we are running out of time. We quickly move to Mazi Opara. You are next.
Yeah, Dr. Damages, Dr. Konko, sorry. Dr. Rudolph Konko, sorry. Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Nnaemeka. My favorite young man. I do follow you on X, everything you tweet, everything you post, I repost, I like, because you are awesome. You are an Igbo man. I love you. My question is, sir, have you considered security of your farm? Because I always listen to you. How are your farms or your industries are being secured? Are you threatened by marauding herdsmen attacking your farm, destroying your farms? Secondly, how was Nigerian Stock Exchange was doing when it was under our sister Aruma Oti and Mustafa, I think Chika, yeah, and I think Mustafa, Chikobi, right? I think they were having,
Mustafa Chikobi.
Yeah. How was he doing then, and how was he doing, and how is he doing now? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my brother. The truth is that investors have lost confidence in activities in Nigerian capital market based on experiences of 2008 to 2010. I was sharing with somebody, I said, for Nigeria to be able to mobilize and grow their capital for critical investments, we must do 4 things. Under Nnaemeka Onyeka as the DG of Nigerian Stock Exchange, under Arum Mote and the rest of them, even this other guy, Onyema, you could see clearly, because in fact, he was one of those that even convinced Aliko to list on the floor of the exchange. Of course, the Dangote cement coming on the floor and dipping the market by over 2.1 trillion naira. And the truth is, there are a lot of companies out there that should have been listed on the floor of the exchange. And let me tell you what the capital market does when a company is listed there. It helps in enhancing corporate governance. It helps in bringing transparency, and it also helps in improving management of such companies because they will be required to do things that they wouldn't have done as a private company. And what pained most people between the period of 2008, 2010 was because most people mobilized funds from the capital market, diverted the monies, and nothing happened to them. You can't try it in the US. I gave you an example of a guy that mobilized $5 million, transferred it to Nigeria to go and build hotels. He went to jail. He did terms. In Nigeria, people do all those kind of shenanigans and they don't do terms. They get chieftaincy titles. They marry many wives. They buy properties all over the world, and they even go to contest for governorship, and they are clapped for. And that is why we need to do a lot. But we need to put round pegs in round holes. I've said it here and I'll repeat it again. This country will not move forward until we restructure the physical governance foundation that will support these shows to go. You do know that Nigeria actually ticked the right boxes. If Nigeria had grown at the pace it was doing between 1970, by now we'll have had a $2.7 trillion economy. But we are not growing because we are not practically doing it. That is why I'm impressed with what Hope is doing in Imo State. Somebody told me, you've been one of Hope's of the man's greatest critic. Then what turned around? And I will tell you what turned around. Because, you know, when you criticize people and provide solutions and they listen to it, you support them. When they started that Orashi, I said it again. 80% of maritime, 80% of transport of goods and stuff around the world is through maritime. Singapore, with a landmass of 721 square miles, with a coastal line that is less than 5% of Nigeria, generate over $27 billion from the maritime sector. And I've said it again, when people tell you the Southeast is landlocked, it's a lie. Southeast is land-linked. For most of you who don't understand, the white man was moving their goods and their slaves through Arochukwu, using through the Azumini Blue River, all the way to Oron, all the way to the Atlantic. And it would let you that from Osankwa, from Azumini Blue River to the Atlantic is about 1821 nautical miles. Go and Google the Amaús River port in Brazil, the Amazon. Is 1,438 kilometers from the Atlantic. It's one of the busiest ports in Brazil. They dredged 1,480 kilometers waterways just to have a port inland. And so when Hope came up with this idea, oh, he wants to do Orashi River port and everything, and it was something he did to play, but I was angry with him because I knew, as the secretary of the Depot Owners Association in Warri, I knew that we wanted to engage one of the biggest dredgers in West Africa, which is actually owned by Igbo man. Julius Beta Dredgers was bought by Ernest Obiejesi, the next Oye guy. He has the biggest dredger in West Africa that can dredge any waterways. And I remember they wanted to dredge 22 nautical miles, and they were giving us a bill of 58 billion naira then. So I knew that to do Orashi, which is longer, do shoreline embankment, do shoreline protection, dredge it in a way that it can carry up to 30-ton vessel, and then do jetties, because when you do it, you open up most of the hinterlands, even for agriculture and everything. I knew it will cost at least $200 million. So when I did not see any clear roadmap on the funding framework, I got angry with him. And of course, I did a lot of podcasts, writings, and everything, and he bought into it. Today, he had a clear roadmap on how that Orashi port will come to be. The same thing the other guy is trying to do, Alex. And I say it today, 65% of the cargoes that come into Nigeria goes back empty. And those 65% of those cargoes actually originate from the Southeast. So when you hear them talk about VAT, talk about revenue, what Lagos is doing, 65% of that revenue are from those who are not indigenous to Lagos State. So what I expect is, if they are able to do their Azumini port, and they're able to do at least, and it will cost us nothing, $1.6 billion will do that one. And I've shown them how we can mobilize funds. Even the Haitian guy I met told me that he will raise as much as $1 billion for us if these guys are serious. If we have a port in Azumini that can do 1.6 million tons of 20-foot containers every year. And we have in Orashi, Hope has almost completed 285 megawatts of power plants in Orashi. Hope is doing almost about 3 FTC. I'm aware of many gas collection plants coming up. I'm aware of many refineries coming up there. And he has done a lot. If you watch, he's doing the major road that leads from Owerri all the way to LL for 3 kilometers. He has awarded 108 billion, and he's doing it 3-way. He has done all the way. If you go from Owerri to Onitsha, before, when you're going to Anambra, you see bad roads. You only enter Anambra when Peter was governor, you see good road. Today, now it's the reverse. The good roads are part of Imo State. Hope have done it. He's also doing the one that. So if he is able to do this and open up the space, investment will flow in. And of course, Imo is becoming more secured. So you can see me now clapping for him. I'm not an APC. I hate everything APC. But I love, he is one of the most, he has done one of the most daring policy programs that will catalyze productivity in Imo State and near the Southeast. So I so much believe that Nigeria has the highest potential. When you hear the president say, oh, we can do $1 trillion economy in 5 years, I tell you, if we have shown you that we can do $1.2 trillion economy in 4 years, I will show you the numbers, sector by sector. And I also tell them, I was sharing with one governor. I told him, I said, well, it was Rochas, when Rochas was governor. I told him, I said, based on the FAC and JAC allocation, by the time you pay salaries and do the current expenditure, total money you can even save is $25 million. If you decide to steal all the money without capital projects, in 50 years, you cannot even make still up to what Aliko Dangote makes in 1 month. I show them clearly how they can do this instrumentality of missions, community, diaspora, private, public, partnership arrangement, how they can create mega industrial behemoth in their states. In such a way that even long after they've left as governors, they can be making as much as 50 billion naira revenue for themselves after they've gone from things they've created. But most of them are not thinking. Most of them are only short-sighted. You know, they see power as just collect FAC, award road contracts, inflate it by 300%, do flyovers, share the money. But you can see different. Hope is actually doing real, tangible infrastructure, bringing the private sector in areas. Just close your eyes and imagine if we, by time, and Seplat have finished that train 1. And I was asking somebody, do you know that in the whole of the Southeast, there are no interlinked pipelines that link cities to cities where people can set up tap gas to do other things? But in Lagos, from Escravos all the way to Ogun State, there are pipelines. And I think Hope is coming up with an arrangement to the private sector where we can do most of these things in the Southeast. And if we do it from Owerri to Aba to Onitsha, all this nonsense that I do in Lagos State, I just pray that they walk the talk. And in the next 5 years, you will see what happens in the Southeast.
All right. Thank you, Maazi Apara. Let's go to KJ, and then Igbo Basics. You'll be the last person because we have to round up. Go ahead, KJ.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doctor. You have spoken very well. Majority of us follow you. I follow you. And we are happy when we heard you are coming. You know, we all rejoiced. I had to break off from church early to listen. And you have spoken very well as Mwafo. You know, these are the kind of leaders we are looking forward to seeing in the Southeast. Because if these leaders were in place, Southeast will not need to travel out. Majority of our youth will not be in Lagos and other places. Will be in the East. And you reminded me of, you know, when you talked about Okpara. My father was an adamant follower of Okpara, and most of what you discuss is what he tells us. If I give an example, which I've given you many times, of the farm settlement policy, which he used, and majority of the eastern states then, I mean, villages, communities, and all that were engaged in those farm settlements. And they took part in those farming these things, which made the Igbo land, you know, the hinterlands quite open. Those things have disappeared now. And my question to you just going to be 2, because I've covered every area that I'm interested in. 1, in your business, do you have an opening for people like Dr. Rudolph Okonkwo, who may want to invest in your business? invest as partners.
There's a reason why
That's,
you can't lie, and the guest is out because you were lying, and the internet rebooked you. Rebooked you. Rebooked you.
okay. Well,
I'm
why?
sure it's probably light or internet connection, but you can go ahead and keep. Hopefully he's listening. Okay, he's back. Go ahead.
All right.
Okay, continue. Sorry.
So, yes, sorry. So, is there an opening for people like us who might want to share in your investment, or do you have, a kind of? Can we take up like a 1 hectare, so to say, and then pay and through your agency get it developed and get a deep business going? Because that's one thing that people in diaspora will want to do to support such a move. That's one. Two. Have you been able to discuss? I like my Governor Oti, because have you been able to also discuss with him one-on-one on such projects in Abia State, so that he can equally be able to put boots on ground why he's there now and why he still have the time? I really appreciate your the amount of your time and treasure which you have sunk into Igbo land, and I pray that people like you who have that kind of amount of money can think about the generations, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years from today, because that's where the world is looking at altogether. Thank you so much for the time. You have even done much more than majority of our guests would do, spoken and answered all the questions. God bless you.
Thank you very much. I want to encourage people. I so much believe in when there is economic diversification, when wealth is spread across board, it helps to curb insecurity, and it helps to create all-inclusive prosperity. I want to encourage people to always look towards their community. You talk about security, and most of our agro parks are fenced. It is one of the reasons why we concentrated most of them in Abia State, because of security in Abia State. LX, which have done a lot to boost security in Abia State. Like we are in Okwa West, we have 254 plots of land that we completely fenced. It was very expensive to fence it. Then we have other hundreds and thousands of hectares of land that we are getting now. We are using bamboo. Basically, what we do is that we use bamboo. For most of you who don't understand, if you do bamboo 30 cm apart, and then one layer, second layer, and then do the other one parallel, and then you build a security house, even with 4 hunters and 4 Kenkoso dogs, it will be difficult for anybody. And then put your castor around it. No herdsmen will come there, because even the cows, any cow that go near a castor seed plant is a dead cow. It's poisonous for cows, so they won't even come close. So basically, we've devised ways of protecting the farms while also making so much money from those protection. I give you an example here. China has 70 million. Have you bothered to ask yourself, how come China emits 40% of the carbon in the whole world? Yeah, China makes the highest money from carbon credits. Smart thinkers. China deliberately did 7 million hectares of bamboo plantation, and they generate about $74 billion annually. If I check this, you can Google it. So that is what we want to do in the Southeast. We want to encourage people, go to your community. We will come there to your community. There's a young man that works in Shell. He's doing 50 hectares. What we are doing for him is very simple. To encourage him to plan for his retirement. We will bring good. I will sign an agreement with him, because he will pay us over 5 years. The cost is set. The cost is settled. We will clear the land for him. We will employ agronomy, because knowledge is power. Why less than 200,000 people in the agri sector in Netherlands is making 122 billion euros annually, and 72 million farmers in Nigeria, yet we are importing $11 billion food? Is because of knowledge gap, illiteracy. What we call family is not family. What we are just doing, we are wasting time. So basically, what we do is that in that community now, the guy that is 50, we are starting clearing next week. We ask him to bring youth from his village, those he can trust. We are bringing them in. We are going to train them. What we are doing there is 25 hectares of palm plantation, 25 hectares of cocoa plantation. It's by a riverside. So we are going to be pumping water from the river to fill our tanks. We will treat it and use it to irrigate the farm because you don't do farming. I hate rain farming because you cannot predict, you cannot plan. And then we are going to intercrop it. Most of you are not even aware. That's watermelon that you buy $15, $5 in the US. I produce it for less than 10 cents. And the watermelon is something you can package in crates. And within 25, 30 days, it's still fresh. I'm having an arrangement with Ethiopian Airlines. We're working with them. They told me if I can give them a cargo of 90 tons, they can fly from Enugu, move it to either Canada or to the US or to UK. The watermelon is a very massive market, $5.8 billion sized. And what we produce are some of the best species that if we enter the market, people will buy. So we are intercropping with veggies, things that we know we can easily export. So the arrangement is that we will run the place with him for 3 years. Once the place starts producing, and we're able to train the people now will become trained trainer that can help to expand in every. Let me tell you something. When wealth is dispersed, when wealth is spread, it helps. This is a no-brainer. Do you know that from that? Let me give you a breakdown. From the 25 hectares of cocoa plantation that he's doing, because we are going to plant it densely, the guy will be generating nothing less than $400,000 every year from the second year, because the species we are doing is the green species that start producing from the 18th month. As I'm talking to you now, it's a no-brainer. Watermelon is something that you do within 150 days you harvest. You know that January and everybody's fasting. Muslims are fasting. Christians are fasting. They will buy watermelon. So the cheapest watermelon you can see anywhere in the supermarket is about 3,000 naira. And this is something I'm producing for less than 10 cents. What is 10 cents? For less than 5 cents. So it's a no-brainer. So what we are practically doing, this guy has embraced it. By the time he retires from Shell, he will have an asset that he can retire, because he told me that he's going to build a very small country home there and retire there. The same thing I want to encourage, if you can't do it alone, form cooperatives. In your village, there are people in diaspora. Talk to your town union chiefs. Let them give you guys land. You're not taking the land from them, because some of them are they will think that you want to use Wayo to collect their land. 30-year lease, you're helping them to create job. If you start, we will supply you the best seedlings. In Cross River State, women has smallholder family state with 8,000 hectares. If you go from Cross River State, from Akom to Etuk, when cocoa went from $3,000 per ton to 11,000, cocoa farmers were buying brand new product. If you go to Ghana, you see brand new product everywhere. They are cocoa farmers. It's a no-brainer. I'll give you an example now. There was a place we did 5.5 hectares of palm plantation in 2024. Last year, around April, I asked my team to go and do soil test and to see if that place would be able to do ginger. They did soil test and they came out with good reports. We went to Southern Kaduna, because Southern Kaduna has the best ginger in terms of pungency, in terms of aroma. We did 3 hectares. We spent 49 million to do those 3 hectares. As I'm talking to you now, we started harvesting. In Imo State, I didn't say Abia State or in the north. Initially, my partner from the US, she came in for Christmas. She harvested that ginger. She told me, "Doctor, I've never seen a ginger as aromatic and pungent as this one." As I'm talking to you now, each of the rhizome that we planted 143,000 plants on 3 hectares. Each of the rhizomes are giving us average of 360 grams of rhizome. The average ginger rhizome in the north does about 103 grams. But the ones we did in Imo State is giving us times 3. We're expecting over 51 tons of ginger. Even at a conservative rate of 5,000 naira per kg, we are looking at about 300 million naira from a 3-hectare ginger farm. Now, close your eyes and imagine we did palm plantation 2024. We have not harvested the palm. The palm will start producing after 6 months. But within that land, we will intercrop it for the next 3 years. Now, close your eyes. Ginger is one of the most sought after spice in the whole world. And Nigerian ginger attracts premium. And interestingly, certain Kaduna had been obliterated because of this issue. Some of them introduced GMO and they destroyed most of their farm. So, as I'm talking to you now, out of the 51 tons we are harvesting, we only sell about 10%. The remaining ones, we are going to store them to do another 100 hectares. Our plan is, if we can help people to do 10,000 hectares of ginger plantation in Alibo, intercropped with their cocoa, with their palm, with their moringa, Google moringa. So it's a no-brainer. This is a no skyrocket science. So if government cannot do it, if you mobilize your town union, put yourself in, because wealth creation is not done by one person. I've never seen, even Aliko Dangote, as wealthy as he is, he has to still depend on other people to manage his 28 outlets across 14 African countries. So we must learn to train people, because I somewhat believe that there's nobody who is not trainable. David, when he was king, was chased away. People that came to meet him in Adullam were men that were classified as distressed, in debt, and discontented. Vagabonds, 400 vagabonds. He became their captain. He trained them, and they became mighty men of valor. There is no Igbo youth that cannot be trained. And I say it again, these youths that we refuse to train will be our albatross, and we must train them. For the rest of, I'm 50 plus, the rest of my life, that's what I'm an investment banker, I'm into oil and gas. I can afford to comfortably buy $2 billion naira bills and relocate to America. I'll be enjoying every year they will pay me my coupon. But what will it benefit me? When after spending America, I'll still come back. Agatha must come back. We must collectively build our land, and there's no going back.
All right. Thank you so much. We're totally out of time, but I will allow Igbo Basics and Ife to get a chance to ask a question. Yeah, Igbo Basics.
Yes, Nnaemeka, I thought that when it got to my turn, the theirs started climbing trees because the internet went off. Thank you so very much for your presentation. I wish we have more Nnaemekas like you. Just a couple of things. You talked about the age of your dad, above 70, when he slowed down. I beg to disagree with you on that particular channel. Already in the 70th floor, and I'm still kicking.
I know.
So one thing is, did you mention the name Ibere in your plantain? No.
Yes, Ibere, yes, Ibere in Abia State.
Okay. Because I'm from Ibere.
Wow.
So we have a couple of things in common. You talked about being a student of Dr. M.I. Akbara. I know Dr. M.I. Akbara pretty well because we formed the Akbara Solidarity Group for him during the time he was still alive and running for office. So we have a couple of things in common there, Dr. Akbara and then Ibere that you mentioned. Of course, I say I'm from Ibere. You also talked about maggots. First, personally, I'm a bushcraft practitioner. People wonder what a bushcraft practitioner does. I believe in the process of the bush. I'm particularly interested in a species of the maggots you talked about. And the one I'm interested in is called Ikurungwa, because human beings not chop finish yet, not to talk other animals and stuff like that to feed them. So Ikurungwa, the one that dwells in the decaying trunk of raffia palm. I believe I will only ask that we will take this off camera.
Okay.
The question I have with you is, have you visited Ibere before?
Yes, of course now.
And if you have, I have a company called My 27 Limited. And we just employed our first employee. My 27 Limited is located exactly 27 miles from Umuahia, if you are going to Abiba.
Yeah.
And the road that is being built there, it took more than 25, almost 30 years to build. But that road is being completed, and I'm looking forward to them commissioning that road. It comes out on mile 27. So when next you go that way, I will suggest that you take a look at mile 27. Mile 27. My question is, I would like for us to, of course, go into partnership of planting a particular economic tree that is not mentioned here yet, somewhere around the month of May. But everything will honor do. You do things one by one. So that is one of my simple requests in my write-up here. Two things. You talked about borehole, industrial borehole. And of course, where you have electricity, be it by solar or by NEPA. Sorry, I don't think that NEPA still exists. Those two things would bring life to any particular place. So my 27 is a place that has taken me more than 3 or 4 years to bring life to that particular place as a hub for development yet to come. So that's just, I wanted to just commend you in your presentations today. I wanted to about that specific.
Right. Igbo Basics, we can't hear you anymore. Your connection is not good anymore. But thank you so much. We understood the context of what you're saying. I can connect you with Dr. Nnaemeka offline, and you can continue the conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, I clearly understand. I know about it, but we'll take it on from here. Let me even tell you, there's a place in Ohafia where we have over 75,000 palm trees that Michael Amara did. What we are doing there now, we are going to be producing pure Nkwenu. We will can it the way we can cook, preserve it for export. So people will be getting fresh palm wine without water in America and Canada. It's coming to you.
All right. That's a good one.
I will say that in about 6 months. Watch out for our first project development, which is going to be on the man behind me. That is there. Alliance Portal.
No,
we look forward to seeing you.
All right. Thank you, Igbo Basics. Yeah. All right. The final person we have is Ifi. Ifi, you have the final word. Go ahead.
Good evening, Dr. Nnaemeka.
Good evening, my sister Ifi.
Good evening, everybody. Papudoka, good evening.
Yeah, how are you?
Actually, Nnaemeka is my dad's middle name. So when I say, I'm like, oh my God. Anyway. Okay. So, of course, I'm Igbo. I hate to say this, but I have to say my mind. But of course, we know the marginalization of Igbos in Nigeria. I've always been a fan of disintegration. Everybody go your separate way. I never believed in one Nigeria. Of course, we've seen how united we are in Nigeria. So for those of us who believe in one Nigeria, and for those of us who don't believe, my sister doesn't want us to disintegrate. She wants to remain, one big country, but I don't. I want everybody to go their separate ways. Knowing that Igbos, we are known for trading, and everywhere we go, we settle and make it our home. But with what is currently going on in Nigeria, how are you going to make Igbos to understand that it is time to start going home and develop a, southeastern, part of our country? I recently left Nigeria about maybe 1 month ago, and what I saw there is not encouraging in terms of economy. I understand, when I spoke to my brother about moving back home, he gave his excuses about how you're going to move back home when we don't even have seaport in terms of importation. Number one, what do you think we can do better? I know you talked a little bit because I didn't come on time. I'm just waking up. I know you've said so much about, seaport, but what is it that we can do, the Igbos, to start going home? That's number one. Number two, if we eventually decide to stay together, which I'm still campaigning, I want us to leave. What do you think we Igbos can do in terms of international airports? What can we do apart from having Abuja and Lagos airport? we are the most people that holds the economy of the Nigeria. I hate to say that, but that's true. If we can tell ourselves the truth, without the Igbos, we won't have economy in Nigeria. What advice can you give traders who are trading? And why is it difficult for our Igbo politicians to speak up for us Igbos and talk to the people? Because we know the people that owns Nigeria are the Hausas. That's what I would say. They own the country. But why is it that our politicians are stupidly following them without bringing any development to Southeast? So everything boils down to my question is Southeast, what can we do to develop it? And why is it difficult to stop corruption in Nigeria? I don't mean to stop it completely. I mean, corruption is everywhere. In other words, lobbying, all of them are still corruption. But why is this our politicians are so corrupt to the extent that, they rub it on our face and there is nothing we can do about it?
Okay, let me start from the issue of international gateway. Enugu State is an international airport. Imo State is an international cargo airport. Now, I was engaging the guys from Ethiopian Airlines. I asked them this question. Ethiopian Airlines used to fly from Enugu to other parts of the world. But what happened was that they normally come with very tiny aircraft. Our Igbo brothers and sisters, we want big aircraft. We want Boeing 747. We want Airbus 380. We want the big ones. So, because of that, our people were not patronizing them. They would rather fly to Lagos to fly the big aircraft. So, when I asked them, I said, how come you guys don't bring the big-bodied aircraft to Enugu? They said it's all about economy of scale. The number of people traveling from Enugu are not as much as the number traveling through Lagos. And again, now you guys, okay, what alternative arrangements can we do? The guys now told me that we can do a combination of passenger and cargo. So we are still talking on how they can begin to bring the wide-bodied aircraft to Enugu. And it's also boiled down to our people. How much are we willing to sacrifice to ensure that we make Enugu International Airport a hub that can even bring beyond the Ethiopian airline, other airlines? Because if you look at it through, and you like what you pointed out, most of those who use even these aircrafts are our traders, our brothers going from China to Dubai to US to UK. It's no good saying that over 40 to 45% of diasporas are Igbo. We've done the numbers because I was privileged to work with NIDOA US, NIDOA UK, NIDOA Europe when I was head of investment bank, one of deposit money banks, and I don't want to go into details of that. Then you mentioned, what do we do to go back home? The insecurity in Igbo, nobody can deceive you. We got our disgruntled brothers who allowed themselves to be used, to destabilize Igbo with all manner of nonsense. Of course, we are there reasons for agitation, yes. And Igbo marginalized, nobody can deny that. Because the way Igbo are treated as if we are second-class citizens. And again, but you cannot bite your nose to spite your face. And I always say this thing. Sitting at home in Imo State or in Abia State, or in fact, let me even tell you, the politicians will even want you to sit at home from Monday to Friday because you will question them. It will not stop them from collecting the FAC and the jack. They will collect it, they will loot it. And as long as you have insecurity, people cannot come out to vote. They will write the result, they will submit it. If you come out, they will kill you. So, if you really want to stop the madness, like I tell you, why is it that they fear the Delta militants? They fear them because they can touch, or they are able to touch the nerve center that will stop the inflow of the loot. That is why even the small thing that has to do with the pipelines, all of them will panic. Should we bite our nose to spite our face? No. That is why we need to stop this nonsense at home and see what we can. I've advised Igbo traders. Like I said, if you ask Niwa, 65% of the containers that are cleared in Apapa, in Lekki Port, in Chinkan, originate from the southeast. Ibeto has, before we finish Orashi, before we do Azumini, Ibeto has a terminal that was concession to him in Port Harcourt. And we know that most cargo companies from Maersk to AP Mola, they will only go where they have traffic. I've told the Igbo trader they need to come together. I have an uncle who has over 158 shops in Alaba. and over 8 warehouses. The man is 70 years. In fact, he called me, he was complaining bitterly that if he knew what he knew now, he doesn't know how to settle down. I said, Uncle, it is too late. Now, I said, what all of you will have done, you bring 20 containers every month. All of you can come together and you bring the container in Lagos. And then you will now hire 3 million naira truck to move it to the southeast, to other places. You guys can come together and discuss with those shippers. If you can aggregate your trucks, your containers, your goods, in a way that you have traffic going to One, it will reduce cost of shipping. And of course, I know that maybe bottlenecks here and there, those enemies of Ndibo, we want to place bottlenecks here and there, but at least when they see the traffic going to different directions, because for example, if I have a bus, and the bus, I have 3 locations where the bus can go to, and I go to Jibowu, and the bus can carry 80 people, and I see 80 people going to Onitsha, 30 people going to Abuja, 20 people going to Zamfara. Of course, you know that I will load my bus complete with 80 people going to Onitsha, because that is what will give me maximum economy of scale. So I've discussed with them. He that pays the piper, he takes the tune. I've been talking to them. I've been having sessions with them, from Alaba to Idumota to Ladipo. I've been speaking with them, and I pray that common sense will set in. If you aggregate it, send it the same way you bring it up, send it to that place, and you can clear it from there and move it as much as possible. But our governors also have a role to play. By the reason of the Land Use Act, we've done the numbers. I was privileged to work with a team of private sector investors. We discussed with some group from Turkey. We discussed with Deutsche Bank Group. Deutsche Bank Group is the biggest private sector operator. They have, from Germany, they have over 340,000 people under employment. We did the numbers. We do a rail project that covers from Shagamu to Ijebu-Ode to Benin to Asaba to Onitsha to Owerri to Port Harcourt, circle back Aba, link Owerri to Umuahia, cover Okigwe, cover Oka, go to Ebonyi, enter Afibo and this thing, and circle back to Onitsha. Will cost us about $5.2 billion. To do a ring-fence rail project that covers all the universities in Imo State, in Southeast, and up to Asaba, because Asaba is part of the Igbo region, and then link cost to One, we take about $3.2 billion. We do the river ports in the 2 locations, we take about 1 point. See, we've done the numbers. It's a no-brainer. The Deutsche Bank Group and the there are things I will say here publicly, but we have got the private sector operator who is willing to take 10%. The state governors, we ask them set up, and they have set up their own SPV. Take 1%. We will raise $1.3 billion equity contribution, which simply means if I call you and say, okay, give me $5,000 as investment, of course, you will return your money back. It's a DBOT arrangement, 45-year concession. We can easily raise 25-year money, a single-digit rate. That route is a route, we've done the numbers. That route is a 200 million ton cargo traffic every year. That route is a 300 million passenger traffic every year. That route can give you revenue of at least $3 to $7 billion annually. That route will reduce transport costs by over 80%. And of course, you know how rail operates, even in the US. Rail creates new cities. And but we can't do it as a private sector group without government support. That's why I also been talking to Mike Okoye. Enough of holding symposiums and summits. The guy who is running the Southeast Development Commission, this is more than 1 year. He's waiting for Abuja to give him money. Abuja will not give you money. We have an institutional arrangement that we can work together to get the governors on board. Oti will be willing to do this. Hope of them will be willing to do this. Mba will be willing, and even Solo will be able to. I don't know about Wayfro. If you convince me, you will do it. But these guys need. Let me tell you. You know, some of us think that this government, they're listening. I think they're listening. They're listening. But they need technocrats. They need people to give them a structure that protects their own interest. You know, they have interest. The interest is what comes to them from it. And we can protect their interest, protect the larger interest of the public, and create an economic behemoth in the Southeast. Let me tell you, we are not victims. So, I said, and I don't want to believe that Hausa controls us. No, they don't control us. All these our brothers that they are doing money and water. I saw them challenging themselves. I bought 2 roses. Everybody has freedom to spend his money the way he spends his money. Some of us can buy Maybach. We can buy roses. But I tell you something. I have a friend who spent 180 million naira to build 3-story building on Onitsha. The guy is in Canada. Every year he's lamenting. The guy tells me, another one built a hostel in Nekede. The guy tells me the revenue he gets from that money. In fact, that he even sends money from Canada to maintain the building because revenue is not enough. But I told you guys, if you have used that 180 million to go to your village, to go and tell your community to give you an expanse of land, you can even buy it from them. If you have used that 180 million to do 35 hectares of palm or cocoa plantation and do one small house there, a country home for yourself, and you get 10 of your village hunters to be protecting that place, and you develop it, build what you want to use bamboo to surround that place. I said there is no year, even when you're not there. Even if you're selling my father did it when my father was alive. I didn't know what my father was doing. Every year, my father will buy 2 plots of land. He will plant cashew inside it. In 11 years, my father did 8 hectares of cashew plantation. When my father died in 2015, my mother inherited that plantation. My mother used to call us to send her money. My mother never called us. If I want my mother, every year, my mother will do a tender bid. People will bid and they will take over the cashew. They will pay her. The woman will be doing Sahara and dashing money to her other women. But this was what took my old man 11 years to do. A UK trained accountant. So imagine if we are thinking that way. The land is your land. The better biological asset is your own. Nobody can take your land. And land grows value over time. A place I bought land in my village in 2007 for 500,000 now. Somebody called me to sell it for 16 million last year. I didn't sell it because the land appreciated. And what did I do there? I bought the land, fenced it, and did plantation inside it. My people, my siblings and relations at home, they go there to harvest the plantain, sort themselves out. I don't ask them for the money for the plantain. My land is there. The land is appreciating. The plantain is helping sort out their problem. We should think. We should think. Nobody can hold a man down if the man does not accept to be down. Before we take any action, before we do it, ask yourself, how does this action benefit you and your people? So when I see people doing stupid shit at home, I ask them, the man, why never bother about it at home? In fact, he was even praying that they should continue. So why, if you want to stop the madness, go to Abuja and confront them and leave the people in the village.
All right.
How do I get in touch with you, Dr. Nnaemeka?
Dr. Rudolph will give you my details. And it's in the public domain. If you Google my name, you see my numbers. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not afraid of anybody.
All right. There are a lot of questions about your number and contacts and your website. So we can share that. But thank you so much, Dr. Nnaemeka. If you have any final thoughts, you can now give it to us. We'll round up.
My final thought is Nigeria is not redeemable based on current structures and arrangements. It's one thing. If they refuse to restructure Nigeria by 2027 to your 10th Israel, anybody telling you he wants to go into election based on the current INEC criminality, let me tell you, what they did in 2023 will be a child's play to what they will do. And I've said it here. Atiku and Obi and just in ADC. What they should be saying now is that there will be no election. In fact, they shouldn't be talking about election. Okay. Restructure Nigeria, restructure the electoral process, make sure that INF is allowed and permitted. Anybody going into election in 2027 with APC under the same arrangement, it's like you loaded an AK-47, gave it to Anini Amondo Sumba, asked them to come and hold mass.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Nnaemeka. And we end it here. We are going to take a break. I will give you my final words when we come back. Thank you, Dr. Nnaemeka.
Hey, come back, Dr. Nnaemeka, come back. We want you back.
I will. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
tó fẹ́ kú torí ẹ̀. Ọwọ́ ẹni ló ti ṣàánú kọ́. Ayé la fi sílẹ̀ sí. Lọ́nà èyí yóò.
Okudilio, nyekelanio, olisamalugo mkoyene menenua. Okudilio, nyekelanio, chukuna malugo yobiadio cha. Agaranya chogo kowe bili, agaranya chogo kowe rienio. Owe chuku bezie chuku. Nuche chukwa busigi fegemeo, nuche chukwa busia ifegemeo. Ni fosolo ne asi alibazie. Obwe bebe agaranya muliba, obwe wuru agaranya mebibe solia, mano agaranya wa, obwe afyozie nipakwa. Agaranya chogo kowe bili, agaranya chogo kowe rienio. Obwe chikubezio lisa. Kodili bemo, kodili wakema, kodili wanima. Naino kwane we beluge beluo. Kodili bemo, kodili kemo, kodili heyo. Ibedwe me wanem, nikadiezi bohimo.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for staying with us, and we appreciate your time. And that's the end of the program. I want to thank those that joined us, those at home. I know I didn't get to the questions some of you asked. Maybe we'll manage time next time better than what we did today. But I want to thank all those who supported us. One man, thank you so much for being a member. One of the ways you can support us is to be a member of the channel. You can be a member for $1 a week, $2, $3, $4, $5. That helps us to plan. I thank you, Brick House Capital, for your support. Thank you, Igbo Basics. And thank you, Show. I don't think we share this, but thank you so much. And thank you, Kulata. Thank you, Joseph, for your support. Next week, we are going to bring, thank you, Oscar Blackmon, sorry. Thank you so much. We appreciate all of you. Next week, we are going to bring another guest that will be interesting, that will help us to understand what's going on in Nigeria, Africa, and the rest of the world. Remember, there will be a follow-up show, which will be when KJ will do the after show. That will give us a chance to have a reaction to this. We don't have time. We are not allowed to go more than 3 hours now. For those who are just new this year, I've been limited to 3 hours. I went over now by 30-something minutes. So thank you again for being here. Thank you, Ife, for joining us. Thank you, Mr. James. Thank you, KJ. Thank you, Maz Yopara, and thank you, Oti. Please join KJ in the after show. That's when Anybody who wants to fight anybody can go there and do that. And I will try to stop by. I really want to, give an insight. Maybe there are questions. Sometimes there may be questions about how we get to do some of these things we do and get some of the people we get. But anyway, thank you all, and I'll see you on the other side. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you. Have you subscribed? Yes, you. Have you subscribed? You. Yeah, before you go, click. It's free. Click. Just that's it. Have you subscribed? You are laughing. Have you subscribed? Have you subscribed? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, madam. Thank you so much. I can see you. We have to get to 100,000 subscribers. By the end of the year, how are we going to do that if you don't subscribe? Yes, you. Yes, you're about to click off. Why? Have you subscribed? It's free. If you don't, ask your son, ask your daughter how to. Just one click. Thank you. Thank you. I see you. Aha. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow.
Amin ya Allah. Amin. Allah ya ba. Alhaji Alwali.